Well, I mean, I don't air that stuff. That's ours.
No, that's
That
I
doesn't
know.
go out. So
I just thought it was.
I always wait till there's a break. I'm like, all right, I want to talk more, but we got 30 seconds before we go on the air.
I thought it was like 5:58, so I went. So at first I'm like, oh, okay, and then I look and it's 6 o'clock, and I went, well, okay.
20 seconds.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floormeister Studios. Floormeisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you on this hump day, the second such one of April. We hope your week is going well. Let's get over it together, shall we? How the heck are you, Miller and Moulton? MillerandMoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Made sure to have a little extra oomph there for all the Gator fans who are still feeling the high. And also, it is Masters Week. And for many of us, that's a good week. No Tiger at the Champions Dinner last night. I thought he'd show up, torn Achilles and all. I mean, just, usually you need some help. I mean, a scooter or, I don't know, wheelchair or something. But so those pictures surprised me. No LT Gray.
Good morning, David. I was surprised too, but whether it's pride or vanity or whatever the case may be, he may not want to be in a picture with a boot on his foot. He may not want to have to take a wheelchair or crutches into a room. For whatever the reason may be, he decided to take it off. And we move on. Par 3 today. Yep. Tournament begins tomorrow. A little bit of weather, perhaps. Middle of the week, one day. But other than that, should be a beautiful week and a beautiful weekend, more importantly, at Augusta National.
Right. A chance for some weather on Friday. But otherwise, it looks as if the tournament will fare very well against Mother Nature. Do you believe in the tee times at the Masters? We talk about it a lot at the Open Championship. The whole early, late situation, or just whether or not late, early is the lucky tee time, where you just need to avoid the one front that comes through on Thursday and Friday and usually dramatically impacts scoring one way or the other.
Well, it's not. I do and I don't. It's obviously not like across the pond where you can basically be played out of the tournament because of the weather. If you get the wrong draw in the Open, you can literally miss a cut because there's just no damn way you're going to score if you get the raw end of the deal. And a lot of the time, guys that'll tee off on Thursday morning, get good weather. The front comes in Thursday afternoon, stays through Friday morning, and the Thursday morning guys are Friday afternoon, and they've got the easier of the run. So it doesn't usually happen that way at Augusta, but there can be a little luck to it, particularly because there's some weather coming in on Friday. So do you need to get on the right side of this? Maybe is it Thursday night, Friday morning to avoid the weather, and then maybe finishing on Saturday if they have to. So there is some truth to it, David, no doubt.
Apparently the past 7 Masters champions had played in the morning on Thursday and teed off in the afternoon on Friday. Thought I saw that stat yesterday. So early, late has been the preferred setup recently. Now, that just could be some of the better players at the early, late, tee times. But for what it's worth, Mark, Brian Harman, who won last week, Although no one's going to compare the Valero Texas Open and the course in San Antonio to Augusta, but still, Brian Harmon is a former major champion. He did win last week. Cam Smith, Patrick Reed, Phil, Morikawa, Minwoo Lee, Scheffler, JT, and Spieth all have the tee off in the AM on Thursday, tee off and finish in the PM on Friday tee times.
Good. The guy that I'm picking has that going for him. So I'm happy to hear that the person I'm going to pick is teeing off Thursday morning.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's nice of you to back Patrick Reed like that.
Absolutely. You know how much I love him in this game.
Yep.
And how well he treats his family.
Right. You're a big fan of Captain America out there. Yes.
Big fan.
And ladies and gentlemen,
who's keeping his card? That's what I want to know. And watch your wallets, everybody.
All right. Based on the March Madness picks that you just heard Mark Miller give over the last 3 weeks, let's see. Is he really taking someone not named Scotty Scheffler?
100% yes.
Wow. I'm impressed.
I am.
I'm impressed.
David, I don't mean to do this to you because you're going down a little Masters run, and you know I could talk to Masters with you for 4 hours this morning.
We got 4 hours, though. Take your time.
Right, but it happened again yesterday in the NBA. What the hell's going on in this league? Memphis fires their coach with a couple of weeks left in the season.
Right.
Denver fires their coach who won them a championship.
Mark, how recently did he win them the championship?
2 years ago.
That would be correct, sir.
2 years ago.
Right.
Doing my thing yesterday, David, and I've been on a shape up, and I've worked really hard at it. So I'm on the treadmill between 30 and 45 minutes every day. And for the most part, I rock out because I had an incident in the gym with one of my neighbors who I listen to podcasts occasionally, and he went to turn the TV. I said, he said, can I turn the TV on? I said, yeah, but would you mind not putting the volume on? And he looked at me and he said, just turn your headsets up. So he's arch enemy number one in life. But now I don't listen to podcasts anymore. I listen to music, and I listen to it loud enough to drown out whatever it is he wants to watch on the television, because we're there generally at the same time every day. But every once in a while, I'll get a text, something will happen, and I'll go to my phone. And yesterday, I happened to just flip on my phone, and I'm like, Malone got fired from the Nuggets.
Right.
What the hell?
Uh-huh.
What in the... Now, I had just gotten done reading an article over the weekend about the power struggle in Dallas between Malone and GM, and would one survive? Would both survive? How is this going to work out in the offseason if Denver doesn't do something in the postseason? And I know most of you don't enjoy the NBA, but come on. The Nuggets have the best player on the planet today playing for them.
Yes, they do.
He is the best player on the planet. Look at the numbers. They're ridiculous. They are making old people like us reassess the center position in the historical reference of the NBA and where we put this guy on it. Correct. That's what he's doing. I mean, He's literally making people that are talking about Wilt and Kareem and whomever else going, are you sure? Because what he's doing is historic. And by all accounts, he's not a meddler. We may find out after the season that he had more to do with this than we think. But there again is a power struggle between the GM and the coach. And what would ownership do if they lay an egg in the postseason? He didn't wait till the postseason. He fired the coach and he fired the GM.
Right. Your contract's up and I'm not renewing that either. I'm sorry, what? Well, do we suck? No, we have the 4th best record in the West, like 7th best record in the game. Wait, what?
Now, from the article I read, and I am not an NBA aficionado, and I'm certainly not an expert on the Denver Nuggets, but there was very good arguments given on how they built this team and did they make some mistakes around the Joker to put the proper pieces in place for this team to take advantage of his prime years. But you fire the coach with 3 games left in the season? It's absurd to me, David.
Mark,
This is NHL-esque. This
is
is something a hockey team would do.
Yes. I mean, Lou Lamoriello with the Devils actually made a move like this once and won a Stanley Cup by firing the coach with like 7 games left in the season. I remember growing up, Mark, I was in my late teens and maybe it was early 20s, and Esposito, when he was running the Rangers, he fired the head coach with like 5 games left in the season. He took over as coach, and I think they lost damn near every game. But yes.
But this is
crazy.
a good team.
Yes.
I don't.
A team that has lost 4 in a row and is 11-13 since the All-Star break. So ownership, when asked yesterday about the move, said, yeah, things haven't been going well for a while. I've been thinking about this for a while. Huh? It's your team. Okay. But also, Mark, it's a bit of a thing going on in the NBA. All right. What's-his-face wins a title as head coach of the Lakers. He only made it 2 years after the COVID year. And he was out. In fact, I don't know if Frank is his first name. Vogel. I don't know if Vogel made it 2 full years.
No.
Before they got rid of him. How about the guy in Milwaukee? Wins the title. They get rid of him 2 years later.
And in each of those cases, and this is what I'm most curious to find out down the road in Denver, was ownership really responsible for the firing? Because LeBron was responsible for the firing in LA. Giannis was responsible for the firing in Milwaukee. Who's responsible in Denver? That's really the question that we will find out in the coming days or maybe weeks. But I found that to be pretty damn bizarre at this point in the season with a good team.
3 games left in the season. A shocking move, no question about it. Masters gets underway tomorrow. The NFL draft is 2 weeks from tomorrow. Baseball season is certainly in full swing. NHL season winding down, a little more than a week. In fact, I think 1 week tomorrow is the end of the NHL regular season, and a week from Saturday is the playoffs.
I'm going to have to regroup, David, because my NHL season ended yesterday.
Yes,
now I've got to get ready to watch the postseason and figure out who it is that I'll be rooting for. It more than likely will be the Lightning. They're probably my second favorite team. I like their broadcast. I like the team. I followed them for a few years. But last night, Montreal basically assured themselves of the final playoff spot. It would take a miracle out of the Rangers, Red Wings, and a couple of others. They'd have to win out. Montreal would essentially have to lose out, but they secured the last playoff spot. We will talk plenty of Masters on the show today. Seth Everett will join us as well. Miller and Moulton starting 25 minutes away.
Whether you're chasing peak performance, reigniting intimacy, or simply want to feel your best, Game Day Men's Health creates customized game plans to optimize your health. Call 239-427-3441 for our Bonita Springs and Naples location to set up your free testosterone test and consultation. Mention Miller Moulton Radio Show for 10% off your service. Find your maximum self with Game Day Men's Health, Bonita Springs and Naples, Florida. Call 239-427-3441 today.
For over 50 years, the Nolan family has been dedicated to protecting local families. Nolan Family Insurance is a second-generation independent agency that specializes in home, flood, auto, and boat insurance. They take the time needed to explain your coverage options and answer your questions so you can make an informed decision that's right for you. If you're looking for an agency that treats you like family, call 941-639-1122 or go to nolanagency.com. That's 941-639-1122 or NolanAgency.com.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Guys, I appreciate your comments, but I'm going to tell you something right now. I know you guys are diehard listeners, but you aren't going to dictate what we talk about on this show. It doesn't work that way. I know you hate the NBA. We are trying to grow our audience. If we pigeonhole ourselves and just talk about two things, we'll never grow our audience. My goal is to get this audience as big as possible. And the NBA to a lot of people is a big deal. A coach was fired of a good team who won a championship 2 years ago. We spent 6 minutes on it, and you guys lose your minds. It just doesn't work that way. And you guys have the power. You can turn the show off. I get it. But we are going to talk about what we want to talk about. And that's why when you guys all start complaining, I just turn the Twitch chat room off. I'm not paying any attention to you. I'm trying to grow our audience. I kind of know there's 10, 15 of you who talk loudly in the Twitch chat room all the time. And we really, 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 I can't express enough how much we appreciate it. But there are more people listening than the 10, 15 of you that dominate the Twitch chat room. EB, then turn the radio off. To be brutally honest, then turn the goddamn radio off. If it's that bad that we spend 5 minutes on a coach that fired you, go. Or make your efforts to have, get a show somewhere and you do you. You can listen to the show on the afternoons on the other station that does NASCAR Motorsports Monday, and he reads the AP. It's the biggest story in sports yesterday. It was the biggest story in sports. It's not close. No, actually, the funny thing, Lucifer? No. Sponsors don't have any pull on the content on this show. They don't. Floor Meisters could call me right now and tell me not to talk to the NBA. I said, TJ, I don't know what to tell you. It's my show. Doesn't work that way. We've been on the air for nearly 20 years together. We've never had our show dictated to us by anybody but Miller or Moulton. And I cannot emphasize enough how thankful we are to have all of you. But you guys don't determine what we talk about. And ambient, I've got, not because of you. There's part of me that wants to see the Nuggets gets bounced in the first round because of this. I'm stunned by this. And I know you're a diehard fan, so I'm not doing that to you because I actually like the Nuggets, but this is crap.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
21 minutes past the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll check in on the New York Giants. We're going to check in on a team each show, at least one for the next couple of weeks leading up to the draft. Catch in on the Giants today, next hour. Seth Everett will join us for his weekly visit a couple hours from now. A lot of our golf guests are doing stuff today. All right. They're busy. Man, I called a bunch of them, but nope. One of them's playing golf. Okay. A couple of guys are like, nope, working, big work day. Oh, okay. Well, I understand.
I get it. And for those that are covering the Masters that want to get their 18 in before they cover the Masters, I have the utmost respect for. I really do. Because there are some great courses in and around Augusta National. Obviously, they don't get to play the big boy. But I think it's Aiken, South Carolina that's right there.
Yep.
Across the border to the Georgia, South Carolina border. A couple of great courses there. Augusta Country Club's a really good course. So there's plenty. You could scoot to Reynolds Plantation, not that far away. I mean, there's plenty of golf to be had for these guys, and I can't say that I blame them.
Nope, not at all. Okay. In fact, it was kind of a tip of the cap. Like, good for you.
Right.
We'll try to catch up Thursday or Friday. Absolutely. Do you know there was history made last night? Something that had never been done in the history of a sport before was done last night.
Are we talking hockey?
As a matter of fact, we are.
Are we talking the Vancouver Canucks?
Well, you went Denver Nuggets for a short time last
No,
night. I figure if we're just going to point out, okay, it is historic after all. The Dallas Stars, a good team, by the way.
A team that may be playing well into June.
Yes.
I mean, Miller and Moulton both have thought for a while that this hockey team could be playing for Lord Stanley's Cup when it's all said and done. They're good.
They're going to have a very tough early playoff draw, though. They're likely drawing 2 of the 5 best teams in the sport in the first 2 rounds. Okay, so they could go home early. But if they get midway through the playoffs, they could dance with Lord Stanley. Don't kid yourself. So the Dallas Stars are at home, and they had a 5-2 lead. Late third period. How late? Thanks for asking. We're like under a minute and a half to go, and Vancouver pulls the goalie. And, let's see if they can score once and, I don't know, make it interesting. Make Dallas sweat. And so Vancouver's got the goalie pulled, and they score right as the announcement is being made, 1 minute to play in the third period. And Vancouver scores with 59 seconds left in the game to make it 5-3. You know where I'm going here. Then, about 26 seconds later?
I think there was 26 seconds remaining. They scored it was actually not to pick. It was 1 minute exactly. And then I think 26.5 seconds left in the game. They make it a 1-goal game.
Okay. So now it's kind of like, oh, wow. Vancouver's made this very interesting.
Even as I was listening, the announcers around there, and they made it 5-4. The announcer says, "Don't go away yet." And, almost toying with the audience because, come on, they're going to get another. They've got to win a faceoff. They got to get the puck deep. and they got to try to score in 25 seconds. That doesn't happen in the NHL.
But it happened last night with a little over 5 seconds to go in regulation. Vancouver tied it up. Officially 3 goals in a 54-second span, all 3 goals in the final minute of regulation. And then they won it in overtime. Now, Vancouver's likely to miss the playoffs. This was literally a comeback for the ages, and it kept them alive, I think, mathematically for 1 or 2 more days.
Correct. I mean, they're not making the playoffs.
Right.
But as you said, David, they still have to believe we can win out and get in. And I'll be damned if they didn't win last night.
But a very good team at home, that's very good defensively, gave up 3 goals in the final minute of regulation and then lost in overtime. So a little hockey history made last night. In the history of the league, no team had ever scored 3 goals in the final minute of the third period. Wow. So,
by the way, the Florida Panthers did themselves a lot of favors last night with the victory, coupled with an Ottawa loss. Looks like the Panthers have a pretty good hold on third place and won't slip to that wild card. They could. Mathematically, it still exists, but a big night for the Florida Panthers last night.
All right. Let's get to the truth serum here. You're the Florida Panthers. Who do you want to play in the first round of the playoffs? Because if you stay where you are and the standings stay as they are, you're going to open with Tampa. If you had fallen 1 spot from third place to the first wild card, you're playing Toronto.
Perhaps.
It is
points between Toronto and Tampa. They play each other one more time.
Well, that's because of last night, though. If the Panthers had lost last night, Toronto remains,
4 up.
And Florida would be only 2 points ahead of Ottawa. And I'm just wondering. Now, obviously, the Panthers are like, listen, we've made it to the finals the last 2 years. If we get healthy here in the next week to 10 days, and we'll get Ekblad back from suspension midway through the first round of the playoffs, I mean, we're going to be fine. I know in the room they think they can beat anybody. But, Mark, let's be honest. Who do you want to play?
David, you're going to call me crazy for this, but let's just say it would have worked out the way you're talking and they finished 4th, and they would have played Toronto in the first round. If they would have beaten Toronto in the first round, who are they going to play in the second round?
Tampa?
Yeah. So to me, it doesn't matter. They've got to go through both. And so it does not matter to me. And I guess the greedy hockey fan in me, I want to make sure, damn sure. I don't want to hope that both Tampa and Florida win their first round matchups to face one another. I want to see this in the first round. I want to see it badly. And you know what? Kind of want to see Toronto and Ottawa too. Because I want to see the pressure on the Leafs from the little team in the capital of the country to our north. I am very interested in that series to see if Toronto crumbles at the hands of the Ottawa Senators and gets bounced in the first round.
So you're getting very provincial on me.
I am.
Heading into the NHL playoffs. You want Florida, Tampa. You want Toronto, Ottawa. We're going to get Dallas and Colorado. We're going to get Edmonton and Los Angeles. I mean,
and I've said for years, David, the first round of the NHL playoffs is the best round of the NHL playoffs. The NBA gets better as the playoffs go on. I truly believe it does. As you wind it down to 2 and 4 teams, I believe the NBA playoffs gets better and better. I think the NHL playoff may hit its peak in the second round, if not the first, because players are so banged up. By the time the Stanley Cup final comes, guys are playing through and with injuries that we don't even know about. So I want to see the best Florida has, the best Tampa has, and let's get it on. I can't wait.
But
I mean, I'm so excited I might apply for press credentials, David. That's how fired up I am about that series.
wow, I'm curious. Are you going to go to Tampa or are you going to go to Sunrise? It's about 20 minutes closer for you to go to Sunrise.
Both?
Ooh.
Both?
Well, let Felipe know. He was really good about getting in our credential requests. That was a cheap shot.
It really was.
I may have to text and apologize and say, I owe you an apology.
Just make sure you do it at 6:30 in the morning.
The starting five is next. Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Honey, you want to come out? I haven't seen you since Glass Doctor installed our custom shower enclosure.
No thanks.
Well, you can't keep eating breakfast in the shower, and laminating your magazines is getting expensive. You remember we have guests coming over tonight, right?
Oh, I'm sure they'd love to see the shower.
It's our neighbors, and I highly doubt they want to be hanging out in our bathroom.
The shower's so good, you'll never want to leave. Visit glassdoctor.com today and schedule an appointment online.
Is snoring bothering your spouse? Would you like to sleep in the same bed again? Do you know that snoring can affect your sleep cycle and cause lower testosterone levels? At Sleep Treatment Direct, we have easy solutions. We have a simple laser procedure that can improve snoring in 10 minutes. If you would like to get back in the same bed or are looking for a natural way to treat low testosterone, give us a call at 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Or go to sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Paula, we love you. You got to give it another month. There's no sense to go back. I say late April.
Oh, gosh, May. May's the best month down here.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
22 minutes till the top of the hour. Miller and Moulton. MillerandMoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. We have not given any public thought to a poll
Or
question
private.
as of yet.
Or private.
Well, that is true. Well, but see, I didn't know when I said that, I didn't know if you had given thought. Because, you know, I'm doing a very good job this morning of being incommunicative. Okay. So I thought maybe, you know, you had looked up and found out that today was National, I don't know, Postage Stamp Day or whatever. And then you had a poll question in mind.
The only thing I have in mind, and it's a stretch, today is National Unicorn Day. And we kind of refer to certain athletes as unicorns. Ohtani, you know, was Bo Jackson. And I was thinking, who is the best sports unicorn? And I don't know if that's too hokey of a question. It was the only thing I had, and it should have been a private discussion, not a public one. But yesterday, I had a rough morning with technology. We got everything handled, but the show had already started. There were some changes made in Colorado where we link up with a satellite, and it was a hell of a morning. This morning, I got here early, very early, to make sure everything was working right. Fortunately, it was. David usually jumps on with me between 5:45 and 5:50 is when we connect with one another. And I'm doing my thing, and I'm getting ready, and all of a sudden I look, and it's 5:56. No David. And about 5:58, David appeared. And we talked for a second. I'm like, and there's a button for us to go live. And I said, I kind of got to go live at 6. And he went, I guess it is. And we started the show. So there was not a lot of discussion this morning.
So favorite sports unicorn, Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, Shohei Ohtani?
You know, that's just an early nomination. We might be able to do better.
Okay. It's worth considering. Right now, it is time for
The Starting Five. 5 big stories you need to know. Here is the Starting Five.
And believe it or not, we'll start with hockey. And a big one in South Florida last night. The Panthers snapped a 5-game losing skid and appear to solidify themselves as, at worst, a third-place team in the division, avoiding falling to becoming a wild card. As they outshot, outplayed, and outscored first-place Toronto 3-1, outshooting them 37-18. Panthers with 2 in the third to win it. So Toronto is 4 points up on the Lightning for first. But the Lightning have a game in hand. And the Lightning will host the Leafs between now and the end of the regular season. If you're the Tampa Bay Lightning right now, you may be 4 points back in the standings.
2.
They're just 2 back?
2. Toronto has 98. Tampa has 96.
And Florida with 94?
Correct.
So Tampa's got the game in hand, 2 points back.
No, they have the same number of games as Toronto. They both played 77 games.
All right. So the Lightning, with 5 games left in the regular season, look at the standings and look at their schedule and go, well, if we win out, we're going to win the division. And then Toronto and Florida can battle it out in the first round, and we'll take on Ottawa, which would not make Mark Miller happy.
No, I want a battle of Ontario, and I want a battle of Florida.
Speaking of Ottawa, they fell 4 points behind the Panthers now, losing to Columbus 5-2. 4 games left to play for the Senators, so they look locked in as the number 1 wild card. Montreal basically assured themselves of a playoff spot last night. They beat Detroit 4-1. They have an 8-point lead, and the teams chasing them have 5 games left. Canadians probably don't have to earn another point and they'll make the playoffs, but if they earn 3 points in their final week, they will certainly make the playoffs. It'll probably happen over the weekend. Crosby scored his 31st. Pittsburgh shut out Chicago 5-0. Stamkos has 27 goals. Scored 2 more on the power play yesterday. 2 goals, 2 helpers for Stamkos in Nashville's 7-6 overtime win over the Islanders. We already talked about Vancouver scoring 3 goals in the final minute of regulation to tie it and then winning in overtime. No NHL team had ever trailed and scored 3 goals in the final minute of regulation of an NHL game before. So history in Dallas last night by the Vancouver Canucks. NBA, there were 10 games played, but the biggest news was made off the field before the game started. Denver firing head coach Mike Malone and informing general manager Calvin Booth, your contract's up and we ain't going to renew it. We're getting rid of both of you bums. And by bums, I mean the 2 guys who orchestrated them winning the NBA title less than 2 years ago.
8 straight winning seasons for Malone, and he was gassed. For the Denver Nuggets, by the way. Just
Mark,
saying.
You seem to be implying that what the Nuggets did was absurd.
To me, it was. I don't know about you, but I found it to be absolutely criminal 3 games before the end of the season. And we've got a diehard Nuggets fan in our Twitch chat room. And I don't mean this to be to him because he gets picked on because he's young and they attack him from time to time. I want the Nuggets bounced in the first round after this. Like, I'm not rooting for this team. I don't know if I was rooting for them before, but I might be rooting against them now. This owner doesn't deserve anything good for doing this.
Well, I believe, doesn't Kroenke own the Nuggets? Same guy who owns the Avs and owns the Rams and owns the European soccer team. And right. So anyway, that was off the field. On the court, if you will, Orlando beat Atlanta 119-112. Paulo 33 points, 10 rebounds. They now have a 2-game lead on the Hawks, and Orlando took a big step last night to being the 7 seed, in which they would host Atlanta in the 7-8 play-in game. Remember, if you're in the 7-8 game, you have 2 chances to make the playoffs. You only need to win 1 game. Celtics did it to the Knicks again, this time, though, in overtime. Tatum with a late 3, people all over the Knicks for not fouling Tatum. Celtics did not have a timeout left, Mark. Knicks score on a driving layup with 13 seconds left, I believe, to go up 3. Tatum gets the ball, brings it up court, 1-on-1, and he just makes a hell of a move. He drives inside the arc. He stops on a dime. He backpedals. He's got the Knicks' best defender on him, and he buries a 3 right in his face with a little over 3 seconds to go. And people are all over Thibodeau for not fouling Tatum. I think because they didn't have a timeout left. Because in theory, then they would, even if he hits 2 free throws, they got to go the length of the court. But Boston ends up winning in overtime 119-117. Porzingis with 34 and Tatum with 32.
I was at least impressed with the Knicks because they had a 5-6 point lead at the half. They blew the whole lead in the third quarter after Boston outscores them by 11. And typically this year, when that's happened, when the Knicks have played good teams, they've continued to crumble in the fourth. They played hard, forced overtime, and could have won the game.
Indiana's just 2 back of the Knicks. Pacers with an outside shot to be the 3 seed. Although there's only 3 games left in the regular season. Pacers beat Washington by 6. Milwaukee all but locked up the 5 seed. They have a 2-game lead on the Pistons with 3 to play. They beat Minnesota 110-103. So it looks like Cleveland, who won last night by 22 over Chicago, they locked in the 1 seed. So it looks right now as if the East seeding, barring basically a team winning out and another team losing out, is going to be Cleveland 1, Boston 2, New York 3, Indiana 4, Milwaukee 5, Detroit 6, Orlando hosting Atlanta in a 7-8 play-in game, And right now, Miami and Chicago are tied for 9th as to who would host that play-in game. That looks to be the Eastern Conference. We have no flipping idea what the West is going to look like.
No,
None.
no, we don't.
I mean, for what
Because
it's
from
worth,
the Lakers at 3 to the Timberwolves at 8, there are 2 games separating all of those teams.
and if you take away the 3 and the 8, the teams 4, 5, 6, and 7 are all tied. The Clippers, the Nuggets, the Warriors, and Memphis are all tied right now. So one of them is going to have home court in the first round, and one of those teams is going to be in a play-in. That's how close it is out west. OKC beat the Lakers by 16. Luka got ejected.
Did you see why he got ejected?
Wasn't he discussing something with a fan?
So he had received a technical earlier in the game, so he already had one. Luka's jawing with the fan. The ESPN reporters, as I'm driving in, I listened to the overnight, they interviewed the fan who goes by like front row tattoo guy. And the fan says he's been jabbing and sparring verbally with Luka for a couple of years. Front row seats. And they're going at it. And he kept telling Luka, your shots are short. You yell. And Luka made one and he turned and he did use vulgarities when going back at the fan. The problem for Luka is that the referee was basically between that fan and Luka, and the referee thought that Luka was swearing at him, tease him up, and ejects him because it was his second technical.
Lakers lost. Golden State beat Phoenix in Phoenix by 38. See, Mark, if any coach was fired yesterday, I thought it was going to be in Phoenix because they've clearly stopped playing for Budenholzer. And Budenholzer wants nothing to do with coaching Durant and Booker next year. I mean, he thinks these guys are dogs.
Don't worry, he won't have to coach Durant because Durant's not going to be there.
Right. He may have to coach Bradley Beal, though, because apparently Bradley Beal's wife loves Phoenix and doesn't want to give up on the no trade clause because of it. Golden State, Steph with 25. They won by 38. Clippers beat the Spurs by 5. Major League Baseball, the Mets have quietly won 6 in a row. They beat the Marlins 10-5. Alonso with 4 RBIs. Marlins fall below 500. Atlanta got a big game from Sean Murphy, a homer and 4 RBIs. Braves over the Phillies 7-5. The Rays in a tie game. Trout misplays a fly ball into a triple. Rays have second and third, nobody out, bottom of the 8th at home, and the top of the order up and don't score. And the Angels score 1 in the 9th to win it 4-3. 5th straight loss for Tampa Bay. Tigers, 5th straight win, handing the Yankees their 3rd straight loss, 5-0. Skubal was terrific. Cleveland finally played their home opener yesterday before 33,722, and boy, were they thrilled because there were 5 singles total in the game, and the Guardians won on a bases loaded walk in the bottom of the 9th to win it 1-0. Twins made 3 errors, gave up 2 unearned runs, and lost to the Royals 2-1. The Dodgers have lost 4 of 5.
Yes, they have.
Nats have beaten them twice in a row, 8-2 the final. Dylan Cease with his worst outing as a pro. He gave up 9 runs for the Padres. A's beat San Diego 10-4. Reds shut out the Giants' second straight game, 1-0. This time it was 2-0 Monday night.
How about the Reds? Is that 4 1-0 games they've played in already this season?
First one they've won.
I know, but think about that. You could go through a season and not play a 1-0 game in that league. They've played 4. It's April.
It's not even mid-April.
Right.
Cardinals 5-3 over Pittsburgh. Skeens, the most runs he's ever given up in an outing, gave up 5 runs in 6 innings and took the loss. Cubs with 4 in the 8th. They beat Texas 10-6. Brewers hit 3 homers in the 7th and beat Colorado 7-1. And by the way, maybe they should have canceled this game. It was 35 degrees at first pitch at Fenway. With 30-mile-an-hour winds, the wind chill was 19 degrees at first pitch. Blue Jays 6-1 over the Red Sox. Arizona 4-3 over the Orioles. Houston 2-1 and 12 over Seattle. There was a tragedy at a nightclub in the Dominican Republic overnight in which two former major leaguers, Octavio Dotel and Tony Blanco, were among 90 who were killed. Also, Nelly Cruz's sister, Nelsie, died in the tragedy. No Tiger at the Champions Dinner. Tee times came out yesterday. Par 3 today at the Masters, which begins in 25 hours. And
Scheffler with a very spicy meal, omeprazole, the breakfast of champions for most of the Masters dinner participants last night.
7 minutes before the hour, that was the starting five. 5 big stories and a spicy Scheffler that you needed to know here on Miller and Moulton. Lance Medow to talk about what the Giants are going to do in the draft next hour. Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. They are helping me with sleep apnea. And by helping me, I mean curing me. No more CPAP machine. No more snoring. No more tossing. No more waking up exhausted. Their expert team got me the right treatment, fast and hassle-free. If you want to feel energized and get rid of your snoring, call Sleep Treatment Direct today. 444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound. American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net. Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
We've got a text message for Dr. Dollar. I feel tired, sluggish, and just not myself. I'm gaining weight, my energy is low, and I've lost my drive. Could it be low testosterone?
Absolutely. Testosterone naturally declines over time, but you don't have to accept it. Low T can affect your energy, strength, mood, and focus. But here's the good news. Testosterone replacement therapy, TRT, can help restore your vitality and get you back to feeling your best. Imagine waking up strong, sharp, and energized, ready to take on the day like you used to. At Revitalize Clinic, we specialize in physician-guided, American-made TRT designed just for you.
Take control of your health today. Call Revitalize Clinic at 239-277-5770. Visit revitalizelounge.com or text Dr. Dollar directly at 239-980-2302. Feel like yourself again. Testosterone replacement therapy, because your best years aren't behind you, they're just getting started. Text Dr. Dollar now at 239-980-2302.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Emmys came out. And Emmy nominations came out yesterday.
Yeah. Did they?
Yep. Which, needless to say, was a bunch of gossip yesterday. But to me, the biggest surprise was there was only one number one football analyst who got nominated.
Who?
Aikman.
I saw Dan Orlovsky got nominated, I happened to have ESPN on when they congratulated him for his nomination. It's a meteoric rise.
Yep. It's also a free agent coming up in like a month.
I think he'd be foolish to leave the mothership. A little early in his career to be jumping that train that's made him, to me.
I think he's seriously contemplating coaching of some kind. I do think, you work at ESPN, they work you.
Oh, yeah. No, there's no doubt.
I mean, there are a lot of places out there that pay more and work less.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floor Meister Studios. Floor Meisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Hour 2 of Miller and Moulton on this hump day. Thanks so much for being with us. Hope your week is going well. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Lance Medow, he hosts a couple of shows on a couple of different Sirius XM channels. He's also part of the Giants radio network. We're going to focus in on as many teams with beat reporters or broadcasters of those teams over the next 2+ weeks. And so we'll focus in on the Giants a little bit later on this hour. We'll get JP Shadrick on in the coming days to talk Jags as well. You and I, along with many of our listeners, really get into the Masters. But do you pore over the stats? Because there are a lot of lists that are made in the days before the Masters begins in terms of, if you'd finished in your top 30 and all your tournaments leading up to the Masters, 28 of the last 30 winners did, there's a staggering number of stats.
And David, I'm glad that you referenced that, because whether I'm watching some reels or some shorts and a thing will pop on that tells you winners of the century have then won the Masters. There are so many of these that you can get lost in all of the theories people have about winning the Masters. The ones that, the biggest one I have is that Fuzzy's the last rookie to win the Masters, right?
Correct. Besides the guy who won the first one, Craig Wood, and then Fuzzy. I think it's the only two first-timers who have ever won this thing.
So I believe there are 21 first-timers at the Masters. Throw them out.
And by the way, it's a field of 95. So right there, it's a field of 74. Continue.
And, I happened to be watching there was older players, guys that you and I would be able to relate to a little bit more, but the question was, what would a 15 handicap shoot at Augusta? And they just started laughing. And one of the pros, and I don't remember which, just said something, he said, it's hard enough for a pro to come here for the first time. This course is that hard. And that's what I thought about. I don't care about the 15 handicap going. When the pros are going, when you show up for the first time, it's hard. You show up for the second time, it's hard. You have to learn the nuances of this golf course. And to me, the biggest part of it is, of all the stats that I've seen, you have to have played well at Augusta. All the other things are not irrelevant, but a little more insignificant to me to what they've done in past years at Augusta. Like, I'm a big Shane Lowry fan. I like him. of all the players on tour I'd like to sit down and have a beer with. I'm not saying, I'd love to sit with Tiger and be able to have a conversation with him and play a round of golf with him. But Shane Lowry looks like a guy that you could sit down and have 10 pints with and have a hell of a time. He doesn't play well at Augusta.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. So they came out with that list yesterday, Mark, going as far back as 2019. So basically the last 6 Masters. And you had to have played in at least 3 of them. Which golfer has played in 3 of the last 6 Masters and has the best average finish at the Masters?
Is that of non-previous winners of it? Or are
Now,
these?
this particular person, in fact, has not won the Masters.
I wonder if is it Morikawa?
No, although he is 5th.
Okay.
It's Will Zalatoris, who has only played in 3 of the previous 6, but he's played in 3 of the previous 4. Remember his breakthrough, his first Masters, he finished 2nd to Matsuyama. Then he followed it up the next year in 2022 by finishing 6th. Didn't play in 23 because of the back surgery. Finished 9th last year. So Will Zalatoris has played the Masters 3 times, and his average finish is somewhere between 5th and 6th. 3 top 10s in 3 Masters for Will Zalatoris.
Which shows you how well he hits the ball there, because I don't think he's a very good putter.
I'm totally
And
with you.
given the fact that he is scoring that well at Augusta, being at best an average putter on tour is amazing to me.
Now, Scheffler is 2nd. His average finish the last 6 years, but he didn't play in the Masters in 2019. All right, so he's played in 5 consecutive Masters. He's been top 20 all 5 times. And obviously, he's won it twice. In and around that, he's finished 10th, 18th, and 19th. So Scottie Scheffler is basically a top 10 at Augusta. Has been each of the last 3 years with 2 wins and a 10th. And then it gets interesting. Like, are you going to believe in Jon Rahm? He's won here before.
And he's been playing better on the Live Tour. His game's in pretty good form right now. I think he's a really interesting pick this week, Dave.
In his last 6 Masters, he's got 4 top 10s. Now, the 2 non-top 10s were 27th, and last year he finished 45th. But the other 4 years, Rahm has won the Masters just 2 years ago and finished 5th, 7th, and 9th. And Jon Rahm has the 4th best scoring average, if you will, or 4th best finish average of all the Masters participants the last 6 years. Here's one that will surprise you. He hasn't played in the tournament the last 2 years. Webb Simpson plays really well at Augusta. 3 top 12 finishes amongst his 4 finishes in the last 6 years. He actually is the 3rd best finishing average of all the golfers. Morikawa is 5th. Schauffele is 6th. And he's 6th with a missed cut. And I know he's not in the best, hasn't played the best and what have you, but Mark, he's got a 2nd, a 3rd, an 8th, and a 10th in and around a missed cut and a 17th place finish. I mean, he finally has broke through and won a couple majors. I don't think he'll fall apart down the stretch like he used to. Do you throw a few shekels on Schauffele?
I'm worried that he has not yet played himself into golf shape, and I don't know if he can get it done for 4 rounds. he is, for the record, one of the favorites, if you will, at 20-1. So you're not getting a ton of value. And I was trying, like Zalatoris, 40-1. There's some value there. And for whatever reason, I'm not seeing Simpson on the list on the Hard Rock app here, which kind of irritates me.
Oh. Who knows? Maybe he's not in the field. Here's a guy. We've forgotten about him because he went LIV. But Cam Smith. Mark, if Cam Smith is remotely in it, he's on the first page of the leaderboard. In his last 6 Masters, he's got a top 50 and a top 35. But the other 4 Masters, he's finished 2nd, 3rd, 6th, and 10th.
Simpson's not in the Masters, by the way.
Well, there you go.
All right. You had me tricked there, David. Of the live guys that I like, I think Jon Rahm's going to have a really good Masters. I do.
Okay.
He is the 3rd betting favorite. Scheffler is the favorite at 4-1. Rory at 6.5-1. Rahm at 13-1. Morikawa 14-1. Oberg and DeChambeau 16-1. For what it's worth, for those that like to gamble on this thing.
Of the LIV guys, I think Sergio's going to play very well. Obviously, he's got pedigree here. It's where he won his only major 8 years ago. He's a great driver still to this day. He's playing his best golf in probably 5 years. But there's all sorts of stats, lists, 43 of the last 45 champions, and finished in the top 30 in their previous event before the Masters,
You can get 5-1 on Sergio for a top 20 finish.
I'd be all over it. Mark, I'd love to know what I can get for Phil for a top 20 finish.
Phil for a top 20 is plus 750. So 7.5-1.
I'd throw a few shekels on both of those prop bets right there. Phil's playing better now than he did 2 years ago when he was T2.
The one guy I've been reading about, and I am interested because he's played really well this year, but his best Masters finish is T16, and that's Sepp Straka. The golf world is all over him this week as not a favorite, but of the, tier 2, tier 3 guys to look at. Obviously, we know who the big favorites are. Take them out, and Straka's a guy that people think can play well. He has played very well this season so far.
People have been making the case on the LIV Tour, the best golfer on it the last year and a half has been Joaquin Niemann. Joaquin Niemann has played in the last 4 Masters. His best finish is 16th. I can't bet any money on Joaquin Niemann until he proves to me he can play well here. All those LIV wins, that's great. His majors record, do something in a major, buddy. Then you'll get my money. Miller and Moulton. Lance Medow in about 25 minutes. Seth Everett next hour. Thanks for joining us on a Hump Day edition. Miller and Moulton. Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or Floor Meisters floormeisters.com.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net. For over 50 years, the Nolan family has been dedicated to protecting local families. Nolan Family Insurance is a second-generation independent agency that specializes in home, flood, auto, and boat insurance. They take the time needed to explain your coverage options and answer your questions so you can make an informed decision that's right for you. If you're looking for an agency that treats you like family, call 941-639-1122 or go to NolanAgency.com. That's 941-639-1122 or NolanAgency.com.
Honey, you want to come out? I haven't seen you since Glass Doctor installed our custom shower enclosure.
No thanks.
Well, you can't keep eating breakfast in the shower, and laminating your magazines is getting expensive. You remember we have guests coming over tonight, right?
Oh, I'm sure they'd love to see the shower.
It's our neighbors, and I highly doubt they want to be hanging out in our bathroom.
The shower's so good, you'll never want to leave. Visit glassdoctor.com today and schedule an appointment online.
This is Miller and Moulton.
I think so, Feeney. But then again, they got 3 wide receivers they didn't vote in this year that I think are Hall of Famers.
The only other direction we could go in for a poll question is Masters.
Can you come up with another one for tomorrow?
Um,
Or do you want to do it today before play starts?
that's the only thing I was thinking.
Okay.
Scheffler, Rory, Rahm, Field. They're the 3 betting favorites. Do you want to take Rahm out and put someone else in, or leave him out altogether?
Leave Rahm and throw in Morikawa and say who has the best finish? Or do you want to pick the winner?
Yeah, who do you think will win? Put those 3 and then the field.
Okay. Yep, mention that, Deadstruck.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
21 minutes past the hour. Top of the morning to you. Hump Day edition, Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Miller and Moulton, broadcasting live from the Floormeisters studios. Floormeisters, just keeping it real. So have we settled on a poll question?
Well, I think we have to go Masters, David. I really do. Given the fact that by the time tomorrow's show starts and we leave these up for a day, I think that, asking someone who's going to win the Masters after it's already started is a little late.
Okay.
So who will win the Masters? Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy. We'll go Morikawa, and then the field. So you have 4 choices. 3 of the favorites and the field.
Okay. That Mark Miller, the David Moulton, Miller_Moulton on X. Did you see Morikawa, by the way, double and triple down? Asked by the Masters media about the little controversy he got into a month ago when he finished second at the Arnold Palmer, and he didn't talk to the media afterwards. And when confronted about it, the next opportunity they had to talk to him, he said, I don't know you guys anything. So he explained himself a little bit, in which he said, I understand it's a give and take. And he said, but by the way, I've been a top 5 player in the world for like the last 4 years. You guys don't talk to me at all. Okay. I don't know who most of you are. You're not interested in getting to know me. So, but yet I'm supposed to owe you something. Okay. And he just said, I'm just telling you, if I could critique you guys for a second, he goes, you guys should be talking. If there's a top 10 player in the world in the event, you should be talking to him every week. You should try to establish relationships with us. Okay. So that we know you, we trust you, and then we're more likely to talk to you when we don't want to talk. And he said, this is how honked off I was by not winning the Arnold Palmer Invitational. My wife came over to me and she kissed me on the cheek. And I said, hi, I'll see you in a bit. And he said, and I just went in the locker room and I didn't come out for an hour. He goes, I didn't want to talk to her. He goes, and you want me to talk to you? So I thought it was very interesting, whether you agree or not. Okay, he ain't backing down. And he just said, if you want to, understand me a little bit better, I'll talk about myself a little bit more. But he all but said, Mark, if I finish second in the Arnold Palmer Invitational because some guy chips in for eagle on me late in the day, I might not talk to you next year either.
It's interesting, David, because this kind of, in a way, speaks of the new generation of athlete. And I don't mean that in a bad way whatsoever. But when you and I were closer to his age,
Right.
and we were in this business, media and players pre-internet had the ability, I think, to get closer. I think players are more guarded now because there are more people with voices and things get out. And I know it's minor league hockey, but one of the things as a broadcaster I used to do in the early days is that it was kind of frowned upon for me as a broadcaster to hang with the players. I never cared about that. One of the first road trips of the year, I tried to make sure when the boys were out that I was out and bought a few drinks for everybody, that they saw me as loose as they wanted to get. And it was always kind of a way for me to say, I'm never going to tell anybody about what I see on the road. Ever. Not a coach, not a general manager, not anybody. I mean, when I was in Atlanta, I used to have my own room on the road. There was a player who, well, did well for himself off the ice.
Gotcha.
And he had a roommate. That would lead to uncomfortable situations.
Sure.
So many a night, I would hear Millsy, you're sleeping with Stan tonight. Okay. And I'd take the key and I'd go down to his room, and Stan Drulia, who is our team captain, would look at me and go, hey, Millsy, how you doing? And we'd sit and BS while things went on in my room.
Right. Okay.
And I never told anybody about what I was seeing because I was developing trust with all these players. But I was allowed to develop trust with all these players because I was allowed to hang around with them in ways that today's athlete simply does not. They travel by private jet. They're not at the airport where the reporters are going to the city. They're renting houses. They're not in hotels, maybe having a meal or a drink where the reporters are at. It's incredibly different to get to know these players. And I appreciate what Colin Morikawa was talking about, but it's hard because the only time you get these players, for the most part, is in a press conference situation. You're not in the locker room able to sit down with them for an hour and get to know them. And maybe Colin's saying he would do that if he knew who you were a little bit more. And if I were a golf reporter, I would be all over this. I would be doing everything I could, David, to try to get to know Colin, to try to say, all right, I'll take you up on what.
Totally. Oh, no, you and I now, for the rest of our time, every tournament that he was at, we would go up to him and his people and go, hey, do you have 10 minutes? Totally. Every day, by the way. All 5-6 days you're on the grounds. I'm talking to you every day. He also said one other thing, and he didn't say it to throw it in their face. He just said it as a matter of fact. He said, I understand things aren't maybe how you guys would like it or how they used to be, but we can get our point out. And he didn't say without you because he didn't have to. He just said, we can get what we want to get out through social media, through, my agency, my PR staff, my sites, I mean, and that is the big difference from what you talked about. You're mentioning 20 plus years ago.
Right.
They needed us. They may have resented us and thought we were just as incompetent and the whole deal, but we truly were the conduits for them to get their information out. They needed us to get out what it was they wanted to be heard. They don't need us now. And by us, I mean the media. Now, I argue that you're all, as sports fans, you're all just getting more propaganda than ever before, and that you're getting more information than you've ever gotten before, goodness knows. But I think you're getting more propaganda, and also they've changed you. You now mostly only want propaganda. I mean, we can tell the difference in our texts and our emails and our feedback from when we started our show nearly a generation ago to now is very different. Very different. We could say something critical of your team when we started, and there was no risk of losing you as a listener. Now, you could love us for 12 consecutive years and 250 shows a year. And if we have one day that you don't like, you're done with us.
Hell, one day, one segment. I began the show and cut you off and said I wanted to talk about Malone, the Nuggets coach that got fired. And our diehards in the Twitch chat room are telling me how to run a show that we've been doing for 20 years. One in which said, I'm not listening anymore. And that's the power that you've always had.
Right.
But now, through the different forms of communication, you can come at us instantly. And I think that the athlete feels that the media comes after them in the same regard, and they can just push back and say, I can get my message out any way I want.
Miller and Moulton are very grateful to you, the listeners, for making us one of the highest rated shows for men, because the working man is one of the toughest demos to reach, and we do. Great sponsors like Floor Meisters, American Paint Supplies, Glass Doctor, Sleep Treatment Direct, Game Day Men's Health, and Molly Maid recognize that, and we thank them. And if you own a business and working men are your clientele, the most cost-effective way to reach them is through us. Text Miller and Moulton at 21,000 or directly via X at that Mark Miller or the David Moulton.
Whether you're chasing peak performance, reigniting intimacy, or simply want to feel your best, Game Day Men's Health creates customized game plans to optimize your health. Call 239-427-3441 for our Bonita Springs and Naples location to set up your free testosterone test and consultation. Mention Miller Moulton Radio Show for 10% off your service. Find your maximum self with Game Day Men's Health, Bonita Springs and Naples, Florida. Call 239-427-3441 today.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. They are helping me with sleep apnea. And by helping me, I mean curing me. No more CPAP machine. No more snoring. No more tossing. No more waking up exhausted. Their expert team got me the right treatment, fast and hassle-free. If you want to feel energized and get rid of your snoring, call Sleep Treatment Direct today. 444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and
This is Miller and Moulton.
Like I've said, guys, that's the power you have. If EB wants to log off, knock yourself out. Can't do anything about it. But I am not going to change the way we do this show because you guys start yelling at us in the Twitch chat room. Not happening. Sure, but here's the thing, Irish football. I would respect you more if you said, yeah, I think the Broncos will make the playoffs, but you picking your favorite team to win the Super Bowl isn't really critical thinking. It's you picking your team. This would be like me in the bracket that I did picking Michigan State to win the title. They're my favorite team. It's where I went to school. I picked Florida because I thought they were the best team. I happened to be right. I got lucky. But to pick, all of you that just pick, I'll pick on Empire a little bit. Empire has sat and told us now for 2 weeks that the Lightning are the most complete team in the game. Now, the only thing I would say to Empire is how much of the Western Conference are you watching? Because I think, Dallas and I think Vegas and I think Colorado, I think they're really complete teams too. And the NHL playoffs is a grind. It's hard to win. I think Tampa's playing really well. Are they the most complete team right now? I don't know. But they're his team. If Empire said, man, I think Tampa's really good, but at the end of the day, I think Florida's going to win the cup, that would mean that they're looking at it differently. I mean, for you to just pick your favorite team, that's easy. We all do that. That's all. And that's okay. That's, you all know what fan is short for. All right. I got to get the guest done before David yells it. Yeah, but we didn't run Realtor Clark off. You guys did.
Although I thought, was it Bob Clark who showed up?
Different guy.
Yeah, it is.
Different guy.
Yeah.
Clark's the guy's first name. The Realtor Clark. I believe Clark's his first name. But I ran off EB this morning, because he didn't want me to talk about the NBA. So be it. It's your power, guys. We've always said that.
That's true.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
22 minutes before the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com. Miller_Moulton on X. Our poll question is up. Vote. Who do you think is going to win the Masters? Going with what? 3 of the top 4 favorites?
Yeah, we threw Rahm off, put Morikawa on, along with Rory and Scheffler, and then the field. Right now, the field getting the majority of the vote.
So vote that Mark Miller, the David Moulton, Miller_Moulton on X. Joining us now on the American Paint Supplies Hotline, your one-stop shop for all your coating needs, is someone who's very good at this sports talk radio thing. He's Lance Medow. You can hear him on Mad Dog Radio. You can hear him on NFL Network Radio. And he's also part of the New York Giants radio network. Follow Lance on X at Lance Medow, M-E-D-O-W. M-E-D-O-W. Lance, it's David and Mark. Thanks for doing this. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Looking forward to the NFL draft. Appreciate you guys having me on, and hope all is well on your end.
Before we get to the Giants in the draft, and we know they've got great draft position, 3rd in the first round, 2nd in the second round, 1st in the 3rd round. Since you're close to the organization, the roster, where do you think it is in relationship to when Daboll and Shane took it over 3 years ago? How much better, the same, or worse do you think the roster is?
It's an interesting question from the perspective of if you go back to year one, which was 2022, and it's a season in which they finished 9-7-1, ultimately made the playoffs and beat the Vikings in the first round. Whenever I'm asked to assess that season, I always say they exceeded expectations, and it was a bit of a facade that was put on the team from the perspective of they weren't a dominant team. They won a lot of games by the chin, and they weren't as good, I would say, as the record reflected. I think they basically took advantage of a good run game that covered up some of the inefficiencies of the pass game and a bit opportunistic on defense. So a lot of the decisions, the reason I'm bringing that up, was based on the team getting a little bit ahead of the curve. So when you say, well, where is the roster in comparison to 2022? I don't think the foundation was very strong back in 2022. I think they had a really good draft class last year, which has given them some pieces to build on, specifically Tyrone Tracy at running back and Malik Neighbors at wide receiver. The quarterback is still a significant question mark, even with Russell Wilson being brought into the fold. And the defense was not very good against the run last season. They certainly had a pass rush that created some havoc, but I think there's still some question marks about Kayvon Thibodeau and where his ceiling is and whether or not somebody outside of Dexter Lawrence can prove to be a game changer. So I think the roster has more upside than 2022 when Dable and Shane came in, but would I say that they're in that much more of an attractive position where they know exactly where all the pieces fit in and they know they have X amount of players that could do the heavy lifting? I wouldn't necessarily go so far. I still think they're very much in a middle ground where they're feeling things out.
All right, Lance, when you look at the draft, pick 3, obviously they need a quarterback, but you just pointed out the other needs that they have. Can they afford to pass on Sanders?
Well, the reason why I don't think they can pass on a quarterback, and I'm not going to necessarily say it's just Sanders, because we've seen some weird developments where quarterbacks all of a sudden rise up, and they could very well take a quarterback high in the second round or the third round. Not to say that that's going to be a guarantee that that player will pan out. I mean, let's not be naive. The longer you wait to take a quarterback, the less likely that will come to fruition, unless you have an environment that is astounding and you have so many pieces in place that you could elevate the quarterback's play, like a Dak Prescott, for example, in the division and what the Cowboys struck when they waited a little bit. But the reason why I say they can't preach patience at that position, to get back to your question, is Russell Wilson's only on a 1-year contract, and Jameis Winston is far from a solidifying force, given what he's had to go through over the course of his career and the issues with protecting the football. So you're going to get back to square one eventually, whether it's next year at this time and we're having this conversation, or it's 2 years. So when you pick this high, guys, whether you love the quarterback or not, you have to ask yourself, where are we going to be picking the following year? Are we going to be in this attractive position? And nobody has a crystal ball. And normally when you pick in the top 3 and you have the ability to take a quarterback, I'm not a proponent of reaching. I'm not a proponent of overselling a player. But I think you do have to be realistic with yourself in terms of how important that position is. And they're not in a spot where they have to play the quarterback immediately. So if Shedeur Sanders is the player at 3, well, you've got Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is the perfect bridge quarterback. You know you can get, assuming he stays healthy, all 17 games out of him. Sanders could come in. He can learn. There's not the issues of trying to get him on the field immediately and having him put on the tape and play hero ball. So it's actually not a bad situation for a young quarterback to come in, learn the ropes, and then a year from now, perhaps all of a sudden, with the roster improved, with him getting a better grasp of what you want out of the offense, that you actually can slide him in. So based on that, even if Sanders is not necessarily the above-all guy that you can't pass on, you can at least groom him over the course of the year so that it becomes a little bit more attractive to hand him the reins in 2026.
Lance Medow, part of the Giants Radio Network. He's also on Mad Dog Radio and NFL Network Radio. Follow Lance on X at Lance Medow, Medow, Medow. I know I would get, taken off New York radio yesterday if I said this, but I actually wanted John Mara to add a year or so to Shane and Dable's contract because I don't want them making decisions this year based on trying to save their job. And I don't know that they can win this year, no matter how good their decision-making is. Like, for example, do you take Abdul Carter at 3, but does that mean that you don't pick up the 5th-year option on Thibodeau because, why have 2 of the same player? Things like that. I want them making decisions with the best of the organization and not self-survival at stake. What would you do, by the way, if you were the Giants at 3? Would you rather have the corner, which they need a great one, or would you rather have Carter, who could be everything Thibodeau was supposed to be?
The problem with Carter is you've got to be a little bit concerned about the surgery, the injury, and whether or not he's going to be ready to go. I think there's still questions hovering with respect to that. As far as the duplication of position, that doesn't concern me too much. I think the Eagles have proven you can never have enough up front. You can rotate guys. All of them are not going to stay healthy for all 17 games. And when the Giants were competing for Super Bowls, they were defined by their rotation up front on the defensive line. That's how they solved the Tom Brady riddle. Steve Spagnuolo, who was known for utilizing a bunch of personnel up front, whether it's the Justin Tucks and the OCU Manures and the JPPs. So I don't think that necessarily would force them to shy away. And I don't think that necessarily would be a bad move. The injury concern is probably what scares me more so than anything else. As far as the point about Shane and Dable getting extensions, listen, the two of you know this very well. You could give a 3-year extension to a guy, and there's no guarantee that you're going to keep him beyond the year. Sometimes it's not worth the ink that's on the paper. So I don't know necessarily if extensions provide security. Not to get off topic, I mean, I'm still trying to digest the fact that the Denver Nuggets parted ways with their head coach, Michael Malone, 2 years removed from an NBA championship. So sports is unpredictable. But I do agree with the sentiment that if you're going to draft a quarterback, whether he plays or not, you're going to teach him the offense. And what bothers me a great deal about the NFL landscape is you bring in a young quarterback, you teach him the ropes, he learns the offense. Now all of a sudden you fire the coach, and year 2, he's got to now start from scratch. I think that's the worst thing you could do for a quarterback. But, guys, let's not forget, the Giants already did that to Daniel Jones. Pat Shurmur came in year 1. Daniel Jones was thrown into the starting position after Eli Manning started the first 2 games. He actually had his best season in 2019, and they fired Pat Shurmur, and all of a sudden they forced him to learn a new offense. So the Giants are actually guilty of doing that, which is another reason why I don't put much stock in giving an extension to the GM or the head coach, because they could all of a sudden go in a different direction after 1 year. I don't know necessarily, once again, if that's going to make either the GM or the head coach feel better about their current position, but I do think that teams, not just the Giants, need to think very carefully if you're going to draft a quarterback. What are you doing to the environment surrounding the quarterback? Are you providing stability, or are you providing a revolving door, which is the worst thing you could do? Think about Alex Smith with the Niners. He had, 7 different offensive coordinators in as many years. Mark Sanchez with the Jets. Some of them survive that, but more often than not, quarterbacks get ruined because of the instability at the coaching position. And I'm with you. I don't think the Giants should have these knee-jerk reactions. The fact that actually they kept Shane and Dable leads me to believe that maybe they learned from previous lessons, but there's no guarantee. If the Giants have a struggle of a season with Russell Wilson and Brian Dable, or the defense has another setback, and this fan base, which already is itchy for W's, who's to say that they don't wind up going in a different direction? That's more of a reason why you could see the Giants go in different directions in terms of who they want with the draft pick. I think the quarterback makes sense in terms of building and preparing for the future, but Travis Hunter would also make sense, because then you have somebody, to your point, that you could put in as a lockdown corner. You brought in Moulton and Debo in free agency, and he also can play a handful of snaps at wide receiver. He's not going to be an every down player at both spots, but you can maximize the usage of him in year one, which is exactly what the Giants need. They need somebody to get on the field and have some substance behind their performance.
They have 4 picks out of the first 99. If you're running the draft, what's the home run for you? What are the 4 areas that they have to take care of with those picks?
Well, I like the fact that you framed the question areas, because I don't like getting caught up in players. We have no idea who's going to be on the board once we get, of course, into the second and third round. So I think it's important for any fan or anybody analyzing a football team to think position, like you phrased it, as opposed to specific player. Well, I think going back to some of the themes that we already discussed, the quarterback is a need, even with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston in the fold, because you need to start focusing on developing a young prospect. Now, that doesn't mean it has to be a first-round pick, but I think they certainly have the opportunity to grab somebody in the first 3 rounds. So that's one. I think there's room for them to bring in a young corner still. Moulton and Debo is somebody that is coming off the rookie contract, has done a nice job with the Saints, but he has some injury history, and they also have Drew Phillips, their nickel corner, who they drafted in the 3rd round. But I think on the outside, with Deonte Banks showing some flashes but still being up and down, there's definitely room for them to go after a corner. I think they also need somebody on the interior, a defensive tackle who can create pressure. They went after that a little bit in free agency, but not guys that were big sack guys. I think that if they can go after somebody that can play the inside and the outside, there is absolutely a void to be filled, because somebody not named Dexter Lawrence needs to be a reliable option. What they saw up close and personal last season was the fact that when Dexter went down, I understand he's Dexter Lawrence. He's an all-pro. But you need to feel as if all of a sudden the team doesn't fall off a cliff when you lose one big, powerful option up front. And I'm specifically talking about the interior. So that would be another position. And then I still think there is an opportunity for them to add another wide receiver. Yes, they have Malik Neighbors, but outside of Malik Neighbors, do they have a guy that can single-handedly take over a game? Wan'Dale Robinson has shown flashes like Deonte Banks at corner, but he has dealt with some injuries. Darius Slayton, they just re-signed, can take the top off the football, but he has yet to, I think, put the fear in the eyes of the opposition. Jalen Hyatt hasn't necessarily panned out as they had anticipated, the 3rd-round pick in 2023. And they added some complimentary free agents, but guys like Zach Pascal and Lil Jordan Humphrey, who may transition to tight end, are not necessarily long-term options. So wide receiver would be my 4th one on the list. And guard on the offensive line is something that I think they can entertain as well, even though all the options on the offensive line are returning from last season.
Lance Medow, Giants Radio Network. You can listen to Lance, Mad Dog Sports Radio, NFL Network Radio. Follow him on X at Lance Medow, Medow, Medow. Lance, thanks for your time and your insight. We appreciate it. Safe travels, and hopefully we can talk again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it. Enjoy the conversation.
Lance Medow, Giants Radio Network, joining us here on Miller and Moulton.
We'll look back on what he said and talk to our resident Giants expert to see if he agrees with Lance Medow and his assessment of the Giants draft. Seth Everett coming up next hour on Miller and Moulton.
For over 50 years, the Nolan family has been dedicated to protecting local families. Nolan Family Insurance is a second-generation independent agency that specializes in home, flood, auto, and boat insurance. They take the time needed to explain your coverage options and answer your questions so you can make an informed decision that's right for you. If you're looking for an agency that treats you like family, call 941-639-1122 or go to NolanAgency.com. That's 941-639-1122 or NolanAgency.com.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh, no.
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks slide peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and 1 replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor, a neighborly company.
We've got a text message for Dr. Dollar. A few of my friends are taking daily Cialis or Viagra. What are the benefits and how much does it cost?
Great question. Cialis, Tadalafil, and Viagra, Sildenafil are game changer for men who want better performance, stamina, and confidence. They improve blood flow, support long-lasting performance, and help you feel like yourself again. And the best part, at Revitalize Clinic, we make it affordable. Less than $1 per pill. No overpriced prescription, no hassle, just real results, American-made, at the best prices in town. Plus, with early hours starting at 5:30 in the morning, we fit your schedule.
Take control of your health today. Call Revitalize Clinic at 239-277-5770. Visit revitalizelounge.com or text Dr. Dollar directly at 239-980-2302. That's 239-980-2302. Get results. Get confidence. Revitalize Clinic, because every man deserves to perform at his best without breaking the bank. Text Dr. Dollar now at 239-980-2302.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Now, see, this is how the disagreements start in the Twitch chat room. And these are good disagreements. This is not Jane, you ignorant slut type disagreement. But the comment, I believe by RCB, that was specifically made about Jameis was that he's selfish and he's immature. And now, granted, we're in the middle of an interview here, so I can't type a long reply. But I just said, the guys love him. Okay? And then obviously, listen, he's not a very good NFL quarterback. But I do think, I'll give you an example. There's only one teammate Cam Newton ever had who didn't like him, Steve Smith. That's it. Now, I love Steve Smith, and I think he's a Hall of Famer. So, you know, what Steve says, I listen to. But have you guys heard Luke Kuechly talk about Cam Newton? Luke Kuechly said he was the best teammate he ever had. Said he was the toughest player he had ever been around in his life. Said he was the first one in the building every day. How much of that have you heard about Cam Newton? Cam Newton was a stranger and showed up on an Auburn team that had 22 fifth-year seniors on it. And he totally took over the room. And those guys would have followed him to their deaths. Nobody on that Auburn team played on Sundays worth a damn. A couple of them had cups of coffee, you know, drafted in the 5th round, practice squad. I think sometimes the flamboyant personality athlete gets a bad rap. Some of it is totally justified. Okay. But teammates love Jameis. There's only one coach he's ever had that didn't like him. Even Arians loved him. He said he just, made too many mistakes, had to move on. They love his work ethic. They love him as a guy. His teammates love him.
If they didn't like him, if coaches didn't think that way, he wouldn't be in the league anymore. Because on talent alone, he's not good enough to be a starter. And he does make mistakes. He's a decent backup. But to David's point, if he was a jerk, if he was a first-class a-hole that didn't like to work, he wouldn't have a job.
I'm telling you, I've been in production meetings with his coaches, okay? Have been in production meetings with his teammates. People in the league like Jameis. Belichick raved about Cam in a production meeting one time. He said, now he's, because the shoulder injury is not as good as he needs to be. He goes, but as a leader, as a guy, he goes, he's everything you want in a quarterback.
By the way, speaking of Belichick, did you see WRAL posted all the salaries for the North Carolina coaches?
No.
Big boy football. Big boy football.
Okay.
Belichick's getting 10. The team's getting like 20 total. Lombardi, Lombardi's getting $1.50.
Yeah, I know.
$1.03. It's okay.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floor Meister Studios. Floor Meisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the third hour of Miller and Moulton, which means final hour of the show in Lake City, Live Oak and surrounding areas, in Port Charlotte, Venice and surrounding areas. It means we're just halfway home in the 239 and the 904. Thanks for being with us, Miller and Moulton. MillerandMoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. And we're pretty much right smack dab in the middle of our week. Our poll question today has to do with the Masters, which will be underway, I believe, exactly 24 hours from now.
Is that when the first tee teams are, right at 8 o'clock?
Well, I know that usually the ceremonial tee shots are at 7:45, and I don't think they waste a lot of time afterwards. Before
and I happen to be the wrong guy to ask that, because my one trip to Augusta, my father and I went, I think it was 07, the year Immelman won. And we got there to watch the ceremonial tee-offs. And Player and I think Arnie was still there, and Jack all hit their tee shots, but there was so much fog, they couldn't start the tournament. So there was about an hour and 30-minute delay from the ceremonial tee-offs until the actual competitors teed off, and that's when we just started walking the course in the fog and just walking the 18 holes.
The only time that I was there in a position to see the tee-off was in 2017, and it was the first one without Arnie. And it was a specific reason why I wanted to be there. And I asked... I was working the Masters that year. That's the one time I worked it. And I just asked the guys I was working for, I'm like, listen, we're not going to pick up right away, are we? Can I see the ceremonial tee shot and then make my way to where it is I need to be? Which, by the way, is a good 15 to 20 minutes from where they have the CBS, what's the word I'm looking for? But basically Armada stationed. It's behind the par 3 course. Even
you guys are, off property almost, right?
we're barely on it. I'll tell you that. We're like behind the 10th. If you were to walk the left side of 10, you get to the green. They don't really let you walk to the 11th tee and then keep walking at like a 10 o'clock angle from the 10th green and keep walking for a while.
Okay. Well, and maybe that's because I remember walking behind the 11th tee. When I walked the course with my dad's back was awful. It took us as long to walk the course as it would for me to play a normal 18-hole round. about every 3-4 holes, he's like, I need to sit down for a minute because the hills are nothing like you. If you've not been there, you will never truly appreciate the difference in elevation on that golf course. It is truly astounding. And I remember walking from 10 green to behind 11 tee and watching people tee off.
And that's a walk.
It is. And for the life of me, that to me, of all the holes there, is the most intimidating hole. Others may think differently, but as I stood behind the 11th tee and I'm looking down that long hole going, where do you hit it? Because it's like a tunnel on the tee. The trees are overhanging on the right side. So it kind of prevents playing a bigger draw because you could get in tree trouble. And, oh, by the way, if you pipe one, you still got a hell of a shot to get into the green on 11. That hole scared the hell out of me just from watching it.
It's funny you bring up 11. It's the most scared that I was during my 6 days on the grounds at Augusta, because on Wednesday, the weather was great in 2017. And you know me, I'm in a great mood. I'm working the Masters. I've never done it before, check it off the list, the whole deal. And I start talking to a maintenance guy, and he gets a call and he says, hey, I got to go. And I said, can I come with you? And he goes, yeah, sure. It's Wednesday. What the heck? Knowing full well he can't ride me around to wherever he's going Thursday through Sunday. All right. And he goes down the left side of 11, not on the fairway. On the opposite side of the woods, there's like a dirt service road. And like you just said, I don't even know if this road's on the property, but it's being used. And all of a sudden, he takes me down and he parks me. And I am to the left of the pond and the green on 11. Where no camera has ever been. And I'm watching the shots from the top of, the second shots on 11. I can see everything on the green, and I can see the tee shots on 12. And I am sitting here and looking around, and I am just waiting to be jailed. I am. I'm just waiting for the helicopter to show up, for two people to appear out of the woods, like out of a movie. Where'd they come from? I'm thinking, I'm not supposed to be here. There's no way I'm supposed to be here. I've never talked to anybody who's ever been here before at Augusta. And I was there for like 40 minutes, and finally he comes back. I mean, that's the other thing. I would have had to walk back. He left me. And he comes back. He goes, oh, still here, are you? I go, yeah, I was going to throw you under the bus when I got arrested because I knew his name and everything. But yes, I mean,
that, and if I go back, and I don't know if they allow the patrons to go there, because when I walked the course, they had not lengthened 5 yet.
Okay.
So the 5th tee, if memory serves me right, and correct me if I'm wrong, David, the 5th tee was virtually right behind the 4th green. They now have moved it back, 30, 40 yards. They bought a house, extended their property, and moved that back. That hole was already incredibly difficult because of that green and the approach shot. And now they're moving them back further. Happened to see Ian Woosnam hit a perfect bunker shot on 5. He hit it in the front bunker. Pin was on the left side of the green in the back, and he hits a 2-hopper that's about to stop because you can see the spin on the ball. But instead of hitting the ground on the second bounce, it hit the pin. And it hit the pin reasonably low, about 6 inches above the cup. And it shot it a little bit right, and it had all that spin on it.
And then it fell off.
Instead of stopping right next to the hole, which would have been a great up and down for Woosnam, it went down 2 hills and came off the front of the green. And here is a perfect shot. Could have put a small bucket in the bunker. And I don't know if he could have hit a better shot. And he, I think, made double there. And he was, he wasn't going to win. He's trying to make the cut in 07. But that was it for him for the day. That was over. So that's the other hole since they've LinkedIn'd it that I think has got to be incredibly difficult now. It always was.
If you're into golf, follow Michael Kim. Okay. He goes by Michael S. Kim. All right. His handle is Mike_Kim 714. He gives a diary every week that he plays on tour, and he does it every day. At the end of the day, he sits down and he really gives you, the golf fan, great information. Little nuggets you'll never get, some great insight on holes and shots. And let me tell you what the player was thinking. You know, like he was in groups where the most controversial shot or ruling of the day was in his group. And he would say, let me explain to you what was going on. He described, Mark, yesterday's practice round. And I'll just read the very beginning. It was a northerly wind, and it was swirling quite a lot. I played 11, 13, 15, 16, and 18 all into the wind. Ha ha. Those holes are not in the same direction. And he goes on to talk about, he says, by the way, 11 was a beast, okay? And he had 6 iron in. He said he crushed it and barely reached the green. You know, he's got one hole that he had to hit 4 iron into. And he just said, you know, between a few less trees and if it's windy, he goes, let me tell you. He said, winds feel like they're swirling differently than I've ever felt them swirl before. Like he just pointed out there, because he started on the back. So that's where he started his diary. And he said, you know, you understand going in certain directions, the wind's going to be, but it's swirling. So how can it be in your face on 6 of the 9 holes?
In the 88 Masters tournaments that have been played so far, and I don't know if this is entirely fair because obviously the game's evolved and players are better now, but only the par 5s, only 4 holes on the damn golf course average under par in the history of the tournament. They are the 4 par 5s. And famous golf writer Dan Jenkins, who said the tournament doesn't really begin until the back 9 on Sunday, 10, 11, and 12 rank as the second, first, and fourth hardest holes on the golf course. And that's supposed to be the scoring 9.
You just have to wait an hour. That's all. Kim pointed out, by the way, that the 13th tee has been moved so far back. And if the wind's in your face, he goes, you don't have to hit a draw off the tee. You can just pipe it dead straight. He goes, it's 320 to get to the corner. And so he's also saying, in theory, you shouldn't have to worry about, you know, some of the guys who would leave it out in the straw. He goes, you know, you're going to have to hit a Sergio bullet drive just to get middle of the fairway and get out to around the corner.
Be interesting because most of these guys play a fade now off the tee. It's an easier shot for them to hit those big high fades. How far left are they going to be able to start it to not get in trouble on 13 if they want to avoid the straw? It's just one of those things to pay attention to this week at Augusta.
13 was the hole that Kim said I had 4 iron into. And my caddy and I were like, a solid 4 will be fine. He said, I actually hit it really good. It landed 15 yards short of the green and eventually rolled into the creek. He goes, let me tell you. Okay, I sure as hope it's not windy this week. He goes, because man, is this wind tough to figure out. And he said he hit like 3 shots on the back 9, in which, as the ball is on the rise, him and his caddy both said, uh-oh, wind got it.
For over 50 years, the Nolan family has been dedicated to protecting local families. Nolan Family Insurance is a second-generation independent agency that specializes in home, flood, auto, and boat insurance. They take the time needed to explain your coverage options and answer your questions so you can make an informed decision that's right for you. If you're looking for an agency that treats you like family, call 941-639-1122 or go to nolanagency.com. That's 941-639-1122 or nolanagency.com.
Whether you're chasing peak performance, reigniting intimacy, or simply want to feel your best, Game Day Men's Health creates customized game plans to optimize your health. Call 239-427-3441 for our Bonita Springs and Naples location to set up your free testosterone test and consultation. Mention Miller Moulton Radio Show for 10% off your service. Find your maximum self with Game Day Men's Health, Bonita Springs and Naples, Florida. Call 239-427-3441 today.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
This is Miller and Moulton.
If you like golf, and not even like, if you love golf, Jay Knoll, you have to figure out a way, even if it's a practice round, to walk those grounds. It's like no place I've ever been. I desperately want to go back, and I want to go back with my son because I was lucky enough to go with my dad. Little nugget that has nothing to do with the show and no need to bring it up. I happened to jump on X, and John McClain was reposting everything that he's read in the last day, apparently.
Okay.
But Baylor guard Robert Wright, all Big 12 honorable mention, all freshman team, just transferred. According to Sheehan Jeremiah, that covers the team, Baylor basketball is teetering on the edge of having 0 returning players, even including walk-ons.
Wow. Wow.
Right. The other one we can talk, I mean, if we want to get into TV numbers, that, the March Madness numbers are out.
Well, I text you during the break. That's actually the topic where I wanted to go. Did you not get my text?
I got it. What I don't get is that usually a text pops on top if I'm reading something, and yours didn't.
I wonder if it's the building.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Seth Everett will join us coming up in a little more than 15 minutes. And then Christopher Powers is going to join us. He covers golf for a living, so I think you know what we're going to talk about with him during the bonus hour. Can I ask you it's not a loaded question. It really isn't. It's a simple question. You and I talk the media more than most. You and I talk ratings more than most. A couple years ago, CBS made the change from Jim Nantz to Ian Eagle doing March Madness. Do you miss Nantz?
I don't.
I'm just curious. Do you, the listener, college basketball, March is for most of you all that you watch, but based on the ratings, a lot of you are interested. Just curious. Do you miss Nantz? Do you find yourself going, where's Hello Friends? I liked him. Or, no, man. He had his run, 30 plus years. He's not an Eagle guy. He was fine. Him and Raft and Grant Hill seem to get along really well.
I thought they had really good chemistry throughout.
Well, what a lot of people nationally don't know is that Ian Eagle and Raftery did 20 years of Nets games together. Ian Eagle's been the voice of the New Jersey, New York, Brooklyn Nets for almost 30 years. I mean, I think we're at 25 plus years now. He's been the voice of Nets basketball. It's also why he is beloved in the New York metropolitan area by the media and the media critics in that area. Okay. Ian, like Raph, by the way, fun personality, great storyteller, makes a lot of people laugh, tremendous banquet speaker. Okay. So for the media critics that are based out of New York, they've been pounding the table for Ian Eagle to get a big time gig for a long time. And CBS finally moved on from Nantz and hoops. And I was just curious. It's been a couple of tournaments now. Do you find yourself missing Nantz? Or are you like, no, it's fine?
Yeah, I'm fine without Nantz. He's obviously very good at what he does. But we had a lot of Nantz. I don't mind a new voice doing it. I like Ian Eagle's excitement, if you will. I like the way he does the game.
Okay. So, which brings us to the ratings game. Mark, let's go back to the women because they were first. They did a Friday, Sunday, semis, and final. And what was getting reported a lot was comparison of 2025 to 2024. Well,
it's like comparing every Final Four game to 1979 when Magic played Bird. It really and truly is.
It's like
and that's the highest rated game they've ever had, and they'll never have one that's higher than that. Caitlin Clark is a once in a generation, if not once in a lifetime phenomenon.
It's like comparing a normal major to when Tiger was in his prime and contending, if not winning that major. I mean, the numbers were staggeringly different. So to put the women's numbers in perspective, by the way, it does deserve mentioning. 2 years ago, Caitlin Clark in Iowa, when they lost to LSU, 10 million people watched them. Last year, when they lost to South Carolina, 19 million people watched. 18 million people just watched the Gators beat Houston for the Natty on Monday, and that's the highest rated national championship game since before the pandemic. That's how much of a phenomenon Double C is there. But for those that are questioning whether or not the game is growing, whether you like it or not, the last Final Four pre-Caitlin Clark did a little under 5 million viewers for ESPN/ABC.
Is that the 2022, David?
Yes.
That was exclusively on cable, from what I'm reading. So not ESPN, ABC. Little less than, you're right on the less than 5 million, but it was exclusively on cable. And it was South Carolina and UConn for perspective.
Right. It's the only time I think UConn's lost a title game because Gino's 12-1. Gino made a fascinating point. He's been to 24 Final Fours, but he said, I have a losing record in the Final Four, right? Or at least he did before this year. Despite having won, he said, I've won 11 titles. I have a losing record in the Final Four. Because I've been beaten as many times, if not more, in the semis than in the championship game. Anyway, back to the ratings. UConn, South Carolina. UConn up 10 at the half. They pulled away right away in the second half.
They dominated. It wasn't much of a game. It really wasn't.
Yeah, you knew it was over. They were up 20 after 3, led by nearly 40. 8.5 million people watched.
Outside of the last 2 years, the Caitlin Clark era, if you will, the largest audience for a title game was just a little less than 8 million when it was on CBS in 1993. So don't judge this year's game on Caitlin Clark numbers. Judge it by where the sport was and where the sport is.
And that's why, 41 of her 44 WNBA games are going to be nationally televised in some way, shape, or form.
Last time Connecticut won a Natty prior to this was 2016. 3 million people watched them play. They've tripled it in that time. Tripled it. And I'm not a women's basketball fan, but you cannot deny that the numbers are up. And those that want to just point their finger and say, well, they're down X% from last year, it's just shallow thinking.
How good is 8.5 million? Well, it's almost a full million more viewers than watched Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final last year. And that was on a Monday night on ABC. So UConn, South Carolina women at 3 o'clock on a Sunday on ABC drew 1 million more people, almost just under 1 million. More people than who watched Game 7 of the Panthers and the Oilers last year on a Monday night on ABC.
But we watched the men on Monday night.
18.1 million.
Most watched Final Four weekend since 2017. Think about this for Houston Cougar basketball, David. They had 41.5 million viewers for its last 3 games. Tennessee, Duke, and then Florida. They had 25 national broadcasts in the 23-24 season. More people watched Houston basketball in 3 games than watched their entire national televised coverage in that season. That's the exposure Houston got.
So those were the numbers. They're all in. That's the perspective. Argue what you want to argue, appreciate what you want to appreciate, dismiss what you want to dismiss. We're into the numbers on this show. Miller and Moulton.
On that note, Live Golf had its first tournament on Big Fox on Sunday. It was, I think, 3.5 to 1. Watch the PGA event versus the Live event. Like 1.7 million to a little under 500,000 watched the Live event on Fox. Miller and Moulton. Our buddy, Seth Everett, in the On Deck Circle. He's next. Thanks for listening.
Miller and Moulton are very grateful to you, the listeners, for making us one of the highest rated shows for men, because the working man is one of the toughest demos to reach, and we do. Great sponsors like Floor Meisters, American Paint Supplies, Glass Doctor, Sleep Treatment Direct, Game Day Men's Health, and Molly Maid recognize that, and we thank them. And if you own a business and working men are your clientele, the most cost-effective way to reach them is through us. Text Miller and Moulton at 21,000 or directly via X at that Mark Miller or the David Moulton.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
Is snoring bothering your spouse? Would you like to sleep in the same bed again? Do you know that snoring can affect your sleep cycle and cause lower testosterone levels? At Sleep Treatment Direct, we have easy solutions. We have a simple laser procedure that can improve snoring in 10 minutes. If you would like to get back in the same bed or are looking for a natural way to treat low testosterone, give us a call at 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Or go to sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Hi, Seth.
Hi there.
I figured, is that Arsenal today? I figured after the big
Know it, baby.
I figured after the big win yesterday, you'd be
Big win. Oh, that was great. I was in a car dealership watching that game on my phone, waiting for my car to be finished. Oh, they said that's the biggest game for Arsenal in 20 years, and I've only been a fan for 4. So it was by far the biggest game of my existence.
don't have Paramount Plus, so I couldn't have put it on if I wanted to.
I get you. Paramount Plus is interesting. You can't do picture-in-picture, so if you get a text and you need to respond, you have to like close the app, which sucks.
Oh, if you're doing it on your phone, okay, yeah.
Paramount Plus's coverage, they try to be jokey like inside the NBA, and no one gets the jokes. You know, they have a global audience, so it's not just Europe that's watching it, and I don't understand half of what they're saying. And the NBC, the Premier League, they don't do that. They don't talk down to you.
No, the Premier, I mean, they cover it like they cover the NFL, if you will. When I'm watching it,
that Rebecca woman, she's perfect.
Yeah, I think they're. I mean, when I watch, their studio show seems to have good chemistry. That's all I can really. Yeah. I don't know the intricacies of the sport and the players. Agreed. So when they start going, it's like it's just noise to me. But
Agreed. They start chanting.
Do they look like they know what they're doing? Does it flow?
On the Paramount Plus is very off-putting. But the game was great. You know, when they go to game coverage, the studio's not a part of it. So, but you don't stay after. You know, I was just fantastic yesterday. Next week, we got to move the day.
Okay.
Would love, ideally, to do Monday or Tuesday.
All right.
Wednesday, I am going to Maryland. And then Thursday, I'll be in Tampa.
I just made my vacation arrangements next week for summer. I will be in Maryland. Or would be in the mountains of like the corner of Maryland, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia on a lake for a week. Very much looking forward to it. There's nowhere to go in North Carolina because they got completely obliterated. There's, basically all the mountain areas there are still not the same from Helene.
Yep.
So I had to go further north.
Speaking of hurricanes, I applied for a credential for Yankees Rays next Saturday in Steinbrenner Field.
Do you apply through the Rays or through MLB, Seth?
It's MLB. There's a login. And my guy, John Blundell, set up this login for me, and it's just me. I don't know how iHeart does it for anybody else, but I can just log in for me. Very nice.
That is nice.
That's my guy. That's my guy, John Blundell, who's the one who broke the news that Manfred heard my podcast and was mad about it.
Which one?
The one baseball cop, with Christian Rad and Sarah Thompson. That was when the Nationals won the World Series, whenever that was, whatever year that
2019.
Was. Right before COVID, right.
Here we go.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
22 minutes till the top of the hour. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com. Miller_Moulton on X. Seth Everett to join us coming up in a moment. Christopher Powers, who covers golf for a living, to join us at the top of the hour, the bonus hour of the show. Our poll question today deals with the Masters. We take 3 of the top 4 favorites. We didn't include Rahm because he's on the LIV tour, and, you all don't think they play golf anymore, and most of them aren't any good. So it's Scheffler, it's Rory, and it's Morikawa versus the field. Who are you picking to win the Masters?
More people have picked Rory than Scheffler, which I find amazing. The field still dominating the vote.
The field.
Do you think it's because Scheffler's the defending champ and there's only been 3 other guys to repeat, Jack, Faldo, and Tiger?
I think it's a little more that, and the fact that his,
I think a lot of people don't think he's found his game yet.
Agreed.
He's close.
Yep.
He's close.
Did have a 61 a couple of weeks ago, but you are right. Seth Everett now joins us, Sports with Friends Hall of Justice, which is on hiatus for the month of April. That's all. Just taking the month off, Hall of Justice for April. Sports with Friends, however, is rolling right along. You can follow Seth on X at Seth_Everett, Seth_Everett. How are you?
I'm good. You never call it Twitter, huh?
No, we were probably one of the first shows to get into the habit of X because we had fun with it. We went from Twitter to Twix.
Right. I remember that.
Right. So we had some fun with it for a little while, and then no, we call it X.
All right. That's fine.
That's, new ownership, Seth. They changed the name. Happens with a lot of businesses.
If his mama call him Twitter, I'm going to call him Twitter.
I'm not calling them the Oklahoma City Supersonics.
That's right. That's right.
By the way,
I heard they're good too.
When basketball returns to Seattle, do they have to be the Sonics or the Supersonics?
Supersonics. They'll be the Sonics. They need the same logo, the same colors, and they need that 1979 banner hanging in the rafters. They are so jacked up for that. That's all they're waiting. Every day they're checking the artist formerly known as Twitter, and they're just waiting for the NBA to make some kind of an announcement.
It's going to happen, but I don't know what kind of hurry the NBA is in. Put it this way.
Well, they want the money.
They do. MLB will have expansion first. But the question I would ask you, what happens first? The NBA expanding by 2 teams or the NHL making the dumbest move in the history of the league and going from 32 to 34 or 36?
I don't know. I think they all do it eventually. It's just a matter of, I think what baseball would need to do is figure out their television situation first and their regional television system first. I think that's first and foremost, and obviously fixing Oakland and the A's and the Rays, get those situations rectified. I think those are major eyesores. I've done a couple of baseball podcasts, and everybody seems to make a big deal about it. It's a big albatross for baseball.
Okay, let's be honest though.
Yeah.
Who's everybody? And is it old white baseball beat reporter media guy who?
Yeah.
Let's be honest, Seth. They make a big deal about everything. That's not exactly what it was in 1986.
Scott Miller made a big deal. Tim Kirkchin made a big deal. Yeah, they're all white guys. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this show is getting really stereotyped.
No. I'm just saying that, listen, we played in a lot of, the baseball, football round stadiums that we played in the 70s and 80s that we look back on affectionately. The stadiums actually sucked.
Of course.
A lot of them.
Of course. And, I'm just saying before you expand, you need to get ballpark deals.
Agreed.
So I would say the NBA first. The NBA settled its television contract.
Yep.
The NHL is comfortable, but I would imagine the NHL doesn't expand until they get their new contract, which is, I think, in 4 years. So if you go by timeline, I would say basketball first. Basketball could happen this summer, and NHL next, and then baseball after that.
There's part of me that think that basketball is going to hold off, Seth, until LeBron retires, because he's made it well known that he wants the Vegas franchise, and I think he's going to get it.
Yeah, it may be true. That could be true, and they'll announce them both. They wouldn't announce Seattle without Vegas, so yeah. But my guy, there's this guy. If you want to have a guest, Chris Daniels, it would be 4 a.m. for him, but he works for King 5, the NBC affiliate out there in Seattle. He's been covering this since the Sonics left. He has been covering this and all the almosts and the almost arenas and all that other nonsense. And he's my guy. When he says it's going to happen, and he thinks this summer. So I'm just a messenger.
And what is interesting, and for as much as we love hockey, And for as much as we're big fans of John Forsland and the Kraken, and we love their merchandise, the bloom does seem to be off the rose there. Like it was a nice 3-year distraction. And now people are like, okay, this was cute. When are we getting the Sonics?
Right. And I did a couple of Kraken podcasts when that franchise first started. And I asked the question to multiple people, and they said, did they build that arena just for the basketball team? Yeah, they did. The hockey team was a means to get the building built, and that's fine. And look, if the Kraken get good, I think the fans will come back. I think it's a new thing, and you don't have this loyal fan base yet, but I like everything that's going on there. It's a healthy franchise.
Well,
struggling team, healthy franchise.
But I don't think they did them a disservice. But unlike what they did for Vegas, the owners looked and said, we are never going to set up an expansion franchise the way that we set up Vegas.
Correct.
I mean, they had 28 more wins or 18 more wins than any other expansion team in the history of that league. And I think the rest of the owners went, that's not how this is supposed to work. I mean, even Utah this year, which was not an expansion franchise, Utah did what a first-year franchise is supposed to do. They played their tails off, and they're going to come up just short of the playoffs. That's leave that carrot out in front of the fan base and say, hey, we're on our way. Whereas after what Vegas did, I think expectations were really high for Seattle, and they had a great first year.
Right, and then Seattle had that second year where they made the playoffs, and I think people got, oh, this isn't that hard. This is kind of neat. That Kraken team was really good, and they were really fun to watch. Who would you rather be, the Kraken, or would you rather be the Buffalo Sabres right now? Right.
And we spent a lot of time, obviously. We even did it with you a week or two ago about Ovechkin. And there have been many great stats and factoids that have come out once he passed Gretzky. By the way, Ovechkin back in action tomorrow. All right, so he's had a nice little time off, he and the Caps. But I think, Mark, Ovechkin, the last time the Sabres made the playoffs, I think his goal total was 301.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, what are we talking, 14 years?
Yeah, that's pretty terrible. That's
I mean, that's a hell of a career right there. I mean, I think he had 594 less goals than he does right now, the last time the Sabres made the playoffs.
Yeah. You guys want to tell your listeners the text that I sent after Ovechkin broke the record on Long Island?
I remember getting the text when the Devils beat the Rangers, and you sent me the Devils logo. But
yeah, that was just fun. But since it's radio, it's something about it. It's a great ceremony, but still they had to go to Long Island, so it's a bit of a schlep.
Nice. All right, solid. You got it. Kind of a New York metro area traffic reference, but
that arena is such a schlep.
It is
so hard to get to. My goodness.
What did you think about the ceremony in the middle of the game? Because it was a lengthy ceremony.
It was weird.
I thought it was done well.
Yep.
Bettman passed the mic pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But it was weird as it was going on, and you're looking at the score and time going, they're in the middle of the game right now.
Well, and the other part about it is I think hockey fans are a sophisticated fan base, and I love that they still boo Bettman, even though they have no complaints. Like, they have no complaints whatsoever. It has been 20 years since he canceled the season, and they boo him. And when he came on Sports with Friends, ironically, this week is $4.99, and Gary Bettman was $2.99. So 200 episodes ago, Gary Bettman said it is a badge of honor, and now he thinks the fan base is so sophisticated that anytime he's there, even when he's awarding a Stanley Cup and you're celebrating the championship, you take 2 seconds and you boo him. And it's great. And I think you boo, and you boo him more than you boo Silver or Goodell or Manfred or any of these guys. And what is the complaint with Gary Bettman? There is none.
Yeah, the game's in the best shape it's ever
Right.
been, Seth. It really and truly is.
Oh, but
They're on
outdoor
ESPN,
games that he gets
they're on
credit for.
ESPN.
Yep.
They've got a new TV deal in Canada. That's
Yep.
fantastic. The game is electric
Healthy.
players. I'm with you. And I was one that was booing him 20 years ago. But I think his tenure as commissioner has to be viewed as a positive one.
100%.
Sure, there are negatives in it.
But I just love that in the midst of all that Ovechkin stuff, they took 2 seconds and he stands up there and they boo.
And if you read lips, they were introducing who was coming out onto the ice. And when they're walking on the carpet, and they said NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman, and the boos start, and they quickly went, and the great one, Wayne Gretzky. And Bettman stopped, turned around, and you can see him clearly say, "Thank God you're here." But he's been commissioner longer of the NHL than David Stern was of the NBA, because Stern did 30 years to the day. And this is
my favorite David
Bettman?
Stern story. My favorite Gary Bettman story is during the 2012 Stanley Cup Finals, Devils Kings. Bob Costas was doing the pre and post game for the NBC coverage, and we were both invited to Gary Bettman's suite. So we stop over to say hello, and and Costas and I get into a heated baseball discussion. I want to say it was about the shift. Do not quote me on that, but that's what I think it was.
That's a pretty geek. This is a pretty
It was
geek
a very
moment
geeky
here.
baseball question.
Okay.
Gary Bettman turns around, looks at us, and says, "Will you two pretend to watch this game?" And he goes, "And you?" And he points to me, and he goes, "This is your team."
Had a dadgum good point.
We were like, "Sorry, Gary."
Had a dadgum good point. Right? You weren't debating the elimination of the red line. You weren't debating an NHL rule change.
We just got into a conversation. It was just a conversation. We went off on a tangent like we're known to do. And it's my favorite Gary Bettman story. He scolded me for talking baseball during the finals.
Good for him. He has more respect from me now than he had before this interview began, Seth. And the fact that he did it to Costas, doing it to you is one thing.
Yeah, right.
Costas is another. And good for Gary Bettman. Because we all know Costas has never had any interest in hockey, even when he was doing games in Syracuse. He thought it was beneath him.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yep. It's my favorite Gary Bettman story.
Sports with Friends. What do you got?
Episode 499. Can you believe it? 499 episodes. Tim Kirchen from ESPN, and also a Stratomatic Hall of Famer. How do you become a Stratomatic Hall of Famer? You got to listen to the podcast.
Huh. Wow.
And it'll come out later this afternoon. Tim has not done the interview yet. We had a scheduling snafu, so we're going to do it this morning, and it'll be out this afternoon.
Wait a minute. He's a Stratomatic Hall of Famer?
Tim Kirchen is a Stratomatic Hall of Famer.
That's fantastic. I for those of you that have no idea what Seth is talking about, I encourage you to Google Stratomatic baseball. Because that is of a geek life a long time ago. You had to play it too, didn't you, Seth?
Oh, when I was a kid? Yeah, sure. Totally. But then we had the PC one, the Tony La Russa baseball, which was kind of like Stratomatic, but on a computer. And that was, I'm a child of the 80s. Tim Kirchen is a little older than me, but he's a great dude. And if we have 30 seconds, my favorite Tim Kirchen line.
You got about 15.
Okay. Darren Ravel and I went to Syracuse Northwestern, the rivalry to nobody but the broadcasters. And Tim Kirchen named it the Blowhard Bowl.
Well done, Tim. He's Seth Everett, Sports with Friends. Hall of Justice will be back next month. Follow him on X at Seth_Everett, Seth_Everett. Seth, as always, we appreciate your time and your insight. All the best to the family. We'll talk next week.
Go Gunners. See you next week.
Seth Everett joining us here on Miller and Moulton Masters Talk on the other side.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh no!
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks slide peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and one replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor. A neighborly company.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
We've got a text message for Dr. Dollar. I feel tired, sluggish, and just not myself. I'm gaining weight, my energy is low, and I've lost my drive. Could it be low testosterone?
Absolutely. Testosterone naturally declines over time, but you don't have to accept it. Low T can affect your energy, strength, mood, and focus. But here's the good news. Testosterone replacement therapy, TRT, can help restore your vitality and get you back to feeling your best. Imagine waking up strong, sharp, and energized, ready to take on the day like you used to. At Revitalize Clinic, we specialize in physician-guided, American-made TRT designed just for you.
Take control of your health today. Call Revitalize Clinic at 239-277-5770. Visit revitalizelounge.com or text Dr. Dollar directly at 239-980-2302. Feel like yourself again. Testosterone replacement therapy, because your best years aren't behind you, they're just getting started. Text Dr. Dollar now at 239-980-2302.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Dead stroke, for the record, I call it bad coffee. I'm an anti-Dunkin' guy.
Yeah, but Robes, when you're drawing 20, 30, 50,000 and you draw 500,000. Listen, I don't know why Fox isn't putting NASCAR on it. I mean, they're doing very good numbers on FS1. I don't know why, spending all this time on the UFL and LIV. And if I was Fox, I'd just put the racing on. People watch it. Robes, I also think part of the problem for the LIV is they get no promotion from anywhere else. Golf Channel's not going to promote them. None of the other golf channels are going to mention them. They don't play every week, so people don't know that they're playing.
Now, there's a kick in the teeth. Kind of knew it was coming. Our guest is on. But I'd been working a Marco Island client. I didn't think she was going to sell her place, and she's decided to keep it. It would have been the biggest listing of my life.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. So if about 10 of you want to sell your places, it would get it close.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floor Meister Studios. Floor Meisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the bonus hour on this hump day. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Joining us for the first time on the American Paint Supplies Hotline, your one-stop shop for all your coating needs, is Christopher Powers. He writes for Golf Digest. He hosts the Loop podcast, and you can follow Christopher on X at CPowers14, the letter C, Powers 14. Christopher, it's David and Mark. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, boys. Thank you for having me on.
Well, when you look at this, like our poll question today, we took 3 of the top 4 favorites. We threw Scheffler, McIlroy, and Morikawa out there, and then we said, and the field. I'm just curious, how many realistically do you think have a shot to win this week?
Outside of those top 3, I would probably limit it to around 20 guys. And if we're talking about the odds board, I would go down as far as guys around 80-1, but only some very specific guys I have in mind for that. But to answer your question, maybe 20 guys. This is one of those. Brooks Koepka had a famous quote a few years ago at Bethpage Black. There's maybe 30 guys that can win a major every week, no matter how many guys are in the field. I would shrink that even smaller for this week. There's a lot of amateurs in the field who have no chance. There's some older past champions in the field who have no chance. And then there's just a middle crop of guys who are kind of just happy to be here. So, yeah, I would hone in on 20 guys and maybe have a chance to win this week.
Is that when you're trying to figure out who's going to win, there's so many different little lists of how they did in past Masters, how they did in majors last year. Did they win this tournament ever? Is there something you look at when trying to determine who's going to win?
Yeah, I really like looking at, and I know you have to go back to last year, and I would even say the year before, but recent major championship strong form. So a guy like Russell Henley, to me, finished, I believe, in the top 7 in the last 2, in the last 2 majors he played. He also finished well here a couple of years ago. A guy like Seth Straka played really well in the majors in 2023, I believe. So I like recent major form. It kind of shows you these guys are starting to feel a little more confident on these weeks. And these weeks are very hard for a lot of guys. And when they can start to build that confidence, we saw Xander Schauffele do that for years and finally break through a year ago. So I'm looking at guys who have played well recently in the majors, going back at least the last 2 years.
It's why, Christopher, I can't jump on the Joaquin Neiman bandwagon despite how he's done on LIV and despite, what many people say about his talent. I mean, doesn't he have to start showing up in these big tournaments for us to take him seriously?
100%. We're in lockstep there. I just want to see one top 10 from the guy. And to be honest with you, I do think we see it this week, although the pressure is really mounting for him because it's become his storyline. He has not done well in the majors. Now, he has finished, I believe, inside the top 30 in his last 2 Masters appearances. So that shows me he's starting to get a little more comfortable. But without one single top 10 in a major, the way the LIV fans talk about this guy, you'd think he's a top 5 player in the world. I got to see something in a major championship before we start making that declaration.
Collin Morikawa has made some headlines for not talking to the media and then how he has talked to the media. Is he, by doing this, adding any pressure on himself for this week?
You know what? Funny enough, I actually asked him that question yesterday in the press conference, and I don't know. That is a fair question. The way he's kind of tripled down on this take that he owes the media nothing, and he seems really firm in his stance. And now it's kind of become a thing. I don't think he's quite a villain yet. He's a villain to the media, it seems like, if you spend some time in the media center. But yeah, it's kind of a story that's going to follow him now, especially if he plays well, doesn't play well, and the media wants to, ask him some questions. And he's kind of dug himself into this corner of, like yesterday, he's saying he wants more questions. He wants people to come talk to him when he doesn't play well, which I find extremely hard to believe. So I actually think you're right. This is adding a little extra pressure to him this week.
Christopher Powers, Golf Digest, and host of the Loop podcast. Follow Christopher on X, the letter C, Powers 14, the letter C, Powers 14. But do other top pros, like in the top 20, deep down, do they agree with him, though, that times have changed and I'm not quite sure how much I owe you guys? And if I want to get my point across, I'll just go to social media and, suck it up and deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Funny enough, I actually asked Rory a similar question yesterday during his presser, and he was kind of defiant. He said Collin was actually right. And something I kind of didn't really realize or forgot is that professional golfers are not obligated to speak to us like the guys in the other professional sports who get fined for not speaking to the media. But my whole point about asking the question, too, is, these other athletes have to deal with reporters in the locker room, kind of grilling them right after they get out of the shower. They got to deal with First Take shows, Stephen A. and Skip Bayless coming at them, a ton of social media hate. I think professional golfers have it really easy by comparison. But to Rory's point, they are not obligated. They can choose not to talk to us, whether they play good or bad. So I think it's a lot of guys think that, and we saw this kind of start at the players. A lot of players were having a little like tit for tat with media members. So I wouldn't doubt that they're all kind of in cahoots saying, we're kind of done with these people. And like you said, they can get their message out in a variety of different ways.
I'm just curious for you, Christopher, who cover the sport on a daily basis. Does this make you want to interview Collin Morikawa more based on what he said? David and I just said flat out, well, that means I'm asking him questions all the time. I'm talking to his people saying, can I get 10 minutes to sit down? I want to get to know this guy now. I would use it as a bridge to try to get more out of Morikawa. Do you think that that's a possibility?
Obviously, what he was saying yesterday would lead you to believe that that's a possibility. I'm a betting guy. I would not bet on us getting more access to Collin Morikawa, just knowing how he operates.
All right. The LIV guys, how many of them are in your 20 that have a realistic chance this week? My dark horse is Sergio. It's been 8 years since he won it. He's probably playing his best golf since the pandemic. Your thoughts on the LIV guys?
Yeah, you know what? I love Sergio this week. And part of the reason is because, a lot of these older these older guys who went to live, it almost felt like a retirement plan for them, right? They went there, like a guy like Lee Westwood jumps to mind, Paul Casey. They went to live and they basically disappeared. You haven't heard from them. Sergio has played very well on that tour, and he obviously just played really well last week at Doral. Obviously has history here. He's always been good in the majors. He's one of these guys who's still trying to qualify for these majors now that he's not in any of them. Obviously, he's in this one for life. So I agree with you. I think like a top 20 bet, a top 10 bet on Sergio is a very strong one. I'm betting Bryson DeChambeau to win this week, so I think he can win. John Rahm is clearly a threat, even though he hasn't shown a ton of form on live. And then a guy, believe it or not, Brooks Koepka is never really under the radar, but it does feel like he's flying a little under the radar this week, which is exactly where he loves to live at these major championships. So those four guys I really like. And I got to say, I mean, you just look at Phil Mickelson's record here and the fact he's had some decent finishes on live recently. I don't know how you can't like Phil Mickelson to maybe make one more run here at Augusta National.
Would be special for sure if he did. A guy who's never won a major, who you think this might be the first time. Like one of the guys who's played really well, he's a dark horse, Sepp Straka. A lot of golf people think he could have a big week. Is there someone who hasn't won a major yet that you'd put some money on?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Russell Henley on that one. I actually picked him in our Golf Digest column as well. He's a guy who's won a bunch of times on the PGA Tour and unfortunately has this reputation of like choking on Sundays. And I think he shedded that at Bay Hill against Colin Morikawa. Obviously, he needed a little bit of luck with that chipping, but he had made a big birdie a couple holes earlier on a par 3. So really did a good job of closing the deal in a huge event, a signature event, a major-like field at Bay Hill. He's 45 to 1, 55 to 1, depending on where you look. He's played really well in the majors over the last 4 or 5 years. He had the lead at Torrey Pines a few years ago, that U.S. Open that John Rahm won before he faded on the weekend. So he's played well in the majors. He's played well in big events now, and he's won a huge one at Bay Hill. I think Russell Henley has a very good chance this week.
Christopher, is there any sentimentality that you can feel being on the grounds? Like it's Longer's last 40 years from when he won his first. It's been 10 years already. Wow. Since Spieth won his only Masters. I'm just curious, is there any sentimentality, blowing through the trees and on the grounds this year?
Well, there's going to be for me. My dad and my brother are actually headed down here right now. They're going to be here tomorrow. So I'm feeling very sentimental personally. But yeah, I agree with you. I can't believe the Spieth thing has been a decade and he's had plenty of ups and downs since. And we'd all love to see him kind of refine his form here this week. And then the longer stuff for sure. He'll be out there at the par 3 contest this afternoon. I'll definitely be out there watching that. And I'm sure, the way how good he is, he'll have a chance to make the cut, I'm sure, on Friday. And if not, that'll be a nice Friday afternoon story and kind of something to follow a couple days from now.
Christopher Powers, kind enough to join us, Golf Digest, host of the Loop podcast. All right. Follow him on X, CPowers14, the letter C Powers14. Christopher, enjoy the week with your dad and your brother. Safe travels, and thanks for doing this.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Christopher Powers, kind enough to join us here on Miller and Moulton.
There you go, Moulton. Got to be fired up about your Sergio. We got some backing from a Golf Digest guy there. Should I just load up the take all that we've got in this account, put it on the Hard Rock app, and just let it fly this week?
I do think it's a huge week for the LIV Tour. Okay, the momentum is gone. Okay, the guys on the tour even are doing pressers saying we kind of thought we'd be a little bit further along. A bunch of key names are in the final year of their contract, whether they want to re-up or make their way back to the tour. I mean, there's no deal in sight. I mean, I really think the top LIV guys need to win some majors, or else the LIV Tour, Mark, could turn out to be the USFL or the World Football League.
I think it's heading that way based on the TV numbers on Fox last week. Their field, literally by names, was a bigger field than what was on the PGA Tour, and yet almost 4 times as many people watched the PGA.
Miller and Moulton are very grateful to you, the listeners, for making us one of the highest rated shows for men, because the working man is one of the toughest demos to reach, and we do. Great sponsors like Floor Meisters, American Paint Supplies, Glass Doctor, Sleep Treatment Direct, Game Day Men's Health, and Molly Maid recognize that, and we thank them. And if you own a business and working men are your clientele, the most cost-effective way to reach them is through us. Text Miller and Moulton at 21,000 or directly via X at that Mark Miller or the David Moulton.
Whether you're chasing peak performance, reigniting intimacy, or simply want to feel your best, Game Day Men's Health creates customized game plans to optimize your health. Call 239-427-3441 for our Bonita Springs and Naples location to set up your free testosterone test and consultation. Mention Miller Moulton Radio Show for 10% off your service. Find your maximum self with Game Day Men's Health, Bonita Springs and Naples, Florida. Call 239-427-3441 today.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has the look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Yeah, Sonny, he's one of my 3 picks outside of the 3 in our poll question.
Yeah, I love Oberg as well. Oberg, Morikawa, those would be my 2. I like your top 20s for Sergio and Phil. I don't think they'll win.
I think Sergio might even top 10. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if Phil was on the first page of the leaderboard on the weekend, that would be ridiculous. But I do think he'll be on the 3rd page. Remember, Jack finished T6 at 58.
Right.
When 9 under was the winning score. I mean, if the course plays harder, it will actually help.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton. Text the guys what's in your mind at 21,000. That's 21000. And now, here's David Moulton.
Miller and Moulton on this hump day. Thanks for getting over it with us. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. I'd like to thank Lance Medow in our 7 a.m. Eastern hour, Seth Everett last hour, Christopher Powers in our last segment for all joining us on the show, and all our guests join us on the American Paint Supplies Hotline, your one-stop shop for all your coating needs.
David, I don't know if this has just come out, and if it has earlier, I apologize. But SEC Unfiltered, a site that I follow on X, said the full schedule of the college football playoff has been officially released. So December 19 and 20, the 19th is a Friday. We'll get 1 game. We'll get the 3 games on the Saturday. The quarterfinals, 1 will be on Wednesday, December 31st. That's the Cotton Bowl. 3 will be on the 1st. The Orange Bowl, it says, is early afternoon, which would be a huge change. I mean, Orange Bowl games are always at night.
So the first game of Thursday, January 1st would be the Orange Bowl?
Correct. The second game is the Rose Bowl because they're going to get their slot. And then the late game would be the Sugar.
Okay.
The semis will be Thursday, January 8th and Friday, January 9th. The Fiesta on the 8th, the Peach Bowl on the 9th, and then on Monday, January 19th will be the final, that game in Miami. So Miami has 2 next year. They will have one of the quarterfinal games on New Year's Day and then the Natty.
So Arizona and Atlanta get the semis, and then the title game in Miami. Okay. All right.
I do like this. I don't like I would go Wednesday, Thursday for my semis.
I'll tell you what, though, but
they can't. It's a week after. It's 6 days, so they've got to give the team. I get it.
And obviously they're trying to stay away from the NFL because I believe the NFL playoffs begin the Saturday after their second semifinal.
So just a little scheduling information for you, a little football on the brain.
I'm glad you did this because we brought up with Pat yesterday about the 18-game schedule, which most everyone now thinks is a fait accompli in the NFL. And it's just a matter of when it will go into place. And most best guesses think it's going to go into place for the 2028 season, possibly as early as 27, but most likely for the 2028 season. Okay. The part of it that I don't like for multiple reasons is the NFL is going to play Labor Day weekend. The NFL doesn't play Labor Day weekend now. They tried it a couple generations ago. They found out last weekend of summer in many places in this country affected attendance and ratings. that the fan is like, this is my last weekend to go to the beach, go to the lake, do whatever, take my kids to, I know a lot of colleges start now in August. My school started the Tuesday after Labor Day. Labor Day weekend, now granted, that's 40 years ago, but Labor Day weekend was when I moved into college.
And there's not as much of that because you are right. Most of them are in August. But for those not in college, for a family, and you have to think, it's hard. I've been in Florida since 1998. Labor Day does not mean to me now what it meant to me my entire life before I left Michigan. It's the last weekend of summer. It's it. It's the, schools up there, a lot of them, regular school, not colleges. Public schools in the Northeast and the Midwest, a lot of them start after Labor Day.
Correct. That's, you and I both started school the Tuesday after Labor Day every year.
That was it. That was the last hurrah.
But I don't like the NFL starting a week earlier and still keeping the, why in the world do we need 2 weeks in between the championship game and the Super Bowl? Could somebody explain? Do you know the network that is televising the Super Bowl starts mapping out and securing locations and reservations 2 years in advance? Okay. So this isn't done for television. Do you really think the league needs the extra week? Seriously? Like they don't have their events planned out before the season starts?
And you don't think that they're securing hotel rooms for the teams years in advance?
Why would they rather start a week early as opposed to eliminate the week in between the conference championship game and the Super Bowl? Here's the other thing though, Mark. Labor Day weekend was the last weekend that college football didn't have to compete with the NFL. And now the NFL, granted, it's on a Sunday, but it's also going to be Monday night.
And college played a bunch of games on Saturday, but they'd play one Sunday night. They'd play one Monday night to finish Labor Day weekend.
Well, and also what would kick off the college football Labor Day weekend? A Thursday game. Well, that's going to be on NBC now, and it's going to be the kickoff of the NFL season.
The NFL hates everybody, David. They really do. Deep down inside, they want world domination.
So they won't help college football out with scheduling the playoff in any way, shape, or form. In fact, they're mad at them for playing the playoff when, in fact, they're playing it. And now, in 3 years probably, they're going to take away the first full weekend of the college football season. And I think the sport gets a lot of momentum Labor Day weekend. Good matchups. We're excited. It's our first meaningful football, week 0, whatever. I think this sucks for college football, and I think it's unnecessary for the NFL. I'd much rather start when I'm starting. I actually think, Mark, college football serves as a really good appetizer for the NFL. And then when college is done Monday night, the NFL takes over Thursday night and says, now, are you ready for some football?
In fact, David, it's a couple of appetizers. It's such good appetizers that you're not sure if you need a meal at the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it
and the nachos? And you're like, do I really need to order an entree after this? I'm going to, but this was enough.
I mean, don't you feel like the way it is now, college football is you get the warm bread, you get unlimited salad, and you're eating your appetizer. And then the NFL kicks off the Thursday afterwards.
Can I ask you a very real question here?
Uh-oh.
When given the option of bread and appetizers, are you actually going to order another salad?
Well, some places.
No. When seconds on salad, there's appetizers and bread on the table, and you went unlimited salad.
Right. Well,
what are you, a 14-year-old girl?
I'm just saying for some of you, not me, of course. Okay. I only ate the salad because it came with the proceedings. and I'm not going to turn down any sustenance unless it's like broccoli. But so I'll eat the one plate of salad, but yeah, I'll eat as much bread as you can put on the damn table.
Miller and Moulton. I'm with you. But the NFL, David, when they took down the NBA on Christmas and they beat them down, and I mean just beat them down, they sat in their room and said, what's next? Well, we'll take over Labor Day. And I don't get why they feel the need to attack college football. I get going after the NBA. I do. But I don't understand the need to attack your feeder system, which you don't pay a dime for. It doesn't make sense. And as you pointed out, the NFL on a generation ago didn't work on Labor Day. Miller and Moulton.
For over 50 years, the Nolan family has been dedicated to protecting local families. Nolan Family Insurance is a second-generation independent agency that specializes in home, flood, auto, and boat insurance. They take the time needed to explain your coverage options and answer your questions so you can make an informed decision that's right for you. If you're looking for an agency that treats you like family, call 941-639-1122 or go to nolanagency.com. That's 941-639-1122 or nolanagency.com.
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh, no!
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks slide peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and one replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor, a neighborly company.
Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. They are helping me with sleep apnea. And by helping me, I mean curing me. No more CPAP machine. No more snoring. No more tossing. No more waking up exhausted. Their expert team got me the right treatment, fast and hassle-free. If you want to feel energized and get rid of your snoring, call Sleep Treatment Direct today. 444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and Mark
sound.
Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
This is Miller and Moulton.
That's funny, Sonny.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton. Text the guys what's in your mind at 21,000. That's 21000. And now, here's David Moulton.
22 minutes till the top of the hour, 16 until we're done yapping. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. A reminder, you miss any part of the show, go to millerandmoulton.com. Mark does a fantastic job of posting essentially every hour of the show right after the hour is done being broadcast live.
Takes me 3 minutes now. That's my goal. We have our network commercial break. My goal is to have the podcast loaded before that break is done.
So millerandmoulton.com if you miss any part of the show. Tomorrow on the show, Whit Watson is scheduled as we'll continue to talk the Masters. And we are 2 weeks from the NFL draft tomorrow. We will have at least one person who is covering a team of interest in the upcoming NFL draft.
It's that time again, nearing the end, but not quite there yet. Here's Mark Miller with Today Was the Day When.
Today Was the Day When is brought to you by Game Day Men's Health. Call 427-3441. That's 239-427-3441 for either their Bonita or Naples location, or go online, GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Mention Miller and Moulton for 10% off your service. We start today in 1768. John Hancock refuses to allow two British customs agents to go below deck of his ship. It is considered by some to be the first act of physical resistance to British authority in the colonies. 1865. Confederate General Robert E. Lee and 26,765 troops surrender, ending the Civil War. 1866. It did a lot of good because the Civil Rights Bill passes despite President Johnson's veto. 1932. Toronto wins the Stanley Cup, sweeping the Rangers. It's their first Stanley Cup as the Maple Leafs. 1941, the PGA establishes the Golf Hall of Fame. 1950, Jimmy DeMeritt becomes the first three-time champion of the Masters. 1959, the Celtics sweep the Minnesota Lakers. It would be the first of 8 straight titles for Boston. Arnie wins his third today in 62 in an 18-hole playoff against Gary Player and Dow Finsterwald.
Player was trying to go back-to-back because he won in 61.
Today in 1965, the Astrodome opened. Its first game was an exhibition game between the Astros and the Yankees. Mickey Mantle would hit MLB's first indoor home run.
And the field was grass because they had it where the roof was not, they tried to allow light to come through it, enough light to keep the grass alive. Outfielders ended up having a horrible time with it, and the grass died anyway. So the turf ended up having to be put in pretty quickly.
Today in 72, Jack would go wire to wire, winning his 4th green jacket. 1976. This is for you and I, David. All the President's Men premiered.
Oh, there's not much riding on this, the Constitution and, democracy and the country. But it'd be nice if you guys were right.
1977. What were we doing a lot of in 1977, David?
Cocaine.
And that shows because number 1 on the singles chart was Dancing Queen by ABBA. It was number 1 in the U.S., the UK, and 12 other countries. Gary Player would shoot a final round 64 to win by 1 today in 78. 64 by a 42-year-old Gary player. Also today in 78, David Thompson goes for 73. And the Iceman goes for 63.
I believe Thompson played first,
Yes.
even if it was only an hour. But anyway, Gervin and the Spurs knew what he needed. They were keeping track of Thompson, and they knew how many points he needed to win the scoring title.
Today in 81, because of pitching staff injuries, the Dodgers put a rookie on the mound, Fernando Valenzuela. He would beat Houston 2-0. He would go on to win both the Rookie of the Year and the Cy Young.
Fernando Mania, and it was a real thing.
Today in 83, Let's Dance by Bowie was the first Bowie song to be number one in both the U.S. and the UK. Gretzky had a little night tonight in the Stanley Cup game. He'd have 1 goal and 6 assists. It was the third time he'd have a 7-point game in the Stanley Cup final. Aldo wins his first of 3 today in 89, winning in a playoff with Scott Hoke.
Because he missed a 2-footer on the first playoff hole. Didn't even hit the hole.
Crenshaw wins his second today in 95, a stroke ahead of Davis Love. VJ wins his today in 2000. Sorry, David.
No, I was just going to say the greatest caddy tip of all time. Crenshaw had been playing lousy for a couple years, shows up at the Masters, gets his old caddy. His old caddy's watching him warm up on the range, and he goes, "What the hell are you doing?" And goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You never used to line up like that. Put the ball back in your stance."
Today in 03, Baghdad falls to U.S. forces, ending the invasion of Iraq. 06, Mickelson wins his second. 2017, Sergio finally gets his. And in 2023, John Rahm wins the Masters to beat Mickelson and Koepka by 4. Curly Lambeau, Hugh Hefner, Carl Perkins, and Seve Ballesteros would have all celebrated birthdays today. Dennis Quaid is 71, Joe Scarborough 62, and Little Nas X, David, your favorite country rapper, is 26 years old today. What did I miss?
Well, you know what you missed, and you left it for me, and I'm very thankful. Because you know me and the Royals, even though there are some of them I don't like, but Prince Charles and Camilla wed 20 years ago today. Ah, those lovebirds. So he should have married the first time. Never loved Diana, but they weren't going to let him marry someone, especially since she was married at the time. You know, it would have been very awkward marrying her the first time. She at least got divorced for the second wedding.
Time to see life a little bit differently. Here's Mark Miller with the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
We start in Utah, where a dog who went missing in Utah turned up 2 weeks later at an animal shelter in Texas, over 1,000 miles from his home. Fortunately, they're going to get the canine back with his family. For the bad, we go to Yellowstone National Park, where Angela Flaherty was sentenced to 7 days in jail after pleading guilty to coming within 10 feet onto the cone of Old Faithful, violating a federal law. She left the boardwalks to get close to Old Faithful and was arrested for doing so. Finally, the ugly. We go to Naples, where 3 rotten teenagers decided they'd be funny. And maybe they watched Clerks before it happened. Or Mallrats, rather, not Clerks, Mallrats, because they decided to beat up the Easter Bunny. They did so at Coastland Center Mall. The 24-year-old woman who was wearing the Easter Bunny costume was returning from the break room, where 3 juveniles approached her, 2 13-year-olds and a 14-year-old, and started pushing, shoving, and pulling at the Easter Bunny. Fortunately, police were able to apprehend the 3. They should just let someone beat the crap out of them, but they don't do that anymore. That is the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, Wednesday, April the 9th, here on Miller and Moulton. Can't hit the Easter Bunny.
No, you can't. No, you can't. So we got 5 games in the NHL tonight. And I can't believe, and I mean this, I cannot believe that the first game of the TNT doubleheader is the Flyers-Rangers. And I know why. I know. They're making a big deal. Longtime voice of the Rangers, Sam Rosen, is retiring after 40 years. His first broadcast partner was John Davidson, who was a terrific announcer for a long time and then went to become part of the management of the Columbus Blue Jackets. And they've reunited Rosen and Davidson to broadcast this game. See, I'm sorry, Mark. This is something for a Rangers fan. This is not something for the nation. I don't believe the nation has this overwhelming feeling about Sam Rosen.
David, I'm a hockey fan. I appreciate Sam Rosen.
Yeah.
I'm not a Ranger fan. It doesn't mean a hill of beans to me that he's retiring. Good for him. Great career.
Yeah.
Nothing against it, but I don't care.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
7:00 tonight in Tampa, the Leafs and the Lightning are playing for first place in the division. Kind of a big game. And by kinda, I mean it could help determine who gets out of the East. Come on now. We're showing this sport nationally. You want to cater to the New York audience and put Sam Rosen and JD back together again? I love them. Grew up on them. Absolutely. Come on now. The game of the night's Toronto at Tampa. What are we doing?
Not to mention, how many stars are on the ice for Rangers Flyers?
Yeah, that would be
The
none.
goaltender for the Rangers? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, he's big name in the sport. When you got Toronto and Tampa, you've got 5, 6 legitimate stars in the game on the ice. It's a joke.
St. Louis, Edmonton, the 10:00 game on TNT. All right, NBA, 10 games. The ESPN doubleheader at 7:30 and 10:00. The early game, well, this is interesting. Is this Luka's first trip to Dallas?
Yes.
Is he going to play?
I don't, it's interesting because they loaded up. Everybody thought they may sit some guys last night, back-to-back games. They played everybody last night against OKC. So I don't know. Lakers are right now a 3.5-point favorite.
Dallas with a win, I believe, clinches a playoff spot and eliminates Phoenix. Lakers fighting for playoff position, home court, etc. 10:00 game. This, don't you want to watch the first 15, 30 minutes of this? Denver at Sacramento. The Nuggets, who just fired their coach and essentially fired their GM less than 2 years after winning the NBA title.
I know it's our hockey bet, but don't we have to lay the 3.5?
New coaches almost always win. Plus, they've lost, 4 in a row? The shakeup, I'm with you. Sacramento needs it, though. Key game for them for playoff positioning, as they're trying to at least be the 9 in the 9-10 matchup with Dallas. For what it's worth, Orlando's home for the Celtics. Celtics went overtime in New York last night. Orlando's a 5.5-point favorite. You don't think maybe they're anticipating some load management tonight for the Celtics, who are locked in as the 2 seed, do you?
Well, put it this way. What would you be willing to bet? And I've not looked if they've scratched anybody. You think Porzingis is going to play tonight?
No.
Not a chance.
No. And I think one of the big 2 doesn't play tonight.
I'm with you.
Possibly both, but I think one of the big 2 doesn't play tonight. The other NBA game of interest, this could very well determine who hosts the 9-10 play-in game. Heat and Bulls are tied. They each have 3 games left. Miami's in Chicago tonight, for what it's worth. And Miami is a 1.5 favorite. Everyone's playing in Major League Baseball. 9 of the games are in the afternoon. Mark, I'm assuming you have Amazon Prime. If so, 1 o'clock, you can watch your Tigers host the Yankees.
Looking forward to it, as a matter of fact.
Marlins are also playing at 1 o'clock. They're in New York trying to avoid the sweep with the Mets.
The red hot Mets off to a great start.
6 wins in a row for them. Rays and Angels tonight at Steinbrenner Field. Boy, that'll be interesting. Got the huge hockey game in Tampa tonight. Do they sell out Rays and Angels tonight at Steinbrenner Field when it's clearly the number 2 event in town?
Yeah, but the weather's perfect. I mean, to go catch a game tonight, it is absolutely perfect.
I know. It is. Miller and Moulton. Hey, thanks for being with us. Whit Watson to talk Masters tomorrow. We'll start previewing the NFL draft here on Miller and Moulton.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh, no!
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks slide peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and 1 replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor. A neighborly company.
Basketball's heating up the hardwood. What a great time to stop in at the Floor Meisters and look at their hardwood. A large selection to choose from, including Mirage hardwood flooring. Floor Meisters has a look and style you want. Mirage wood is grown and made in Canada from the finest quality wood flooring you'll find. And while you're in, ask to see the Petite Enfant collection. 5 custom colors made only for the Floor Meisters. So good it has a 35-year warranty. Floor Meisters, 6281 Naples Boulevard, next to Costco, or floormeisters.com.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
We've got a text message for Dr. Dollar. A few of my friends are taking daily Cialis or Viagra. What are the benefits and how much does it cost?
Great question. Cialis, Tadalafil, and Viagra, Sildenafil are game changer for men who want better performance, stamina, and confidence. They improve blood flow, support long-lasting performance, and help you feel like yourself again. And the best part, at Revitalize Clinic, we make it affordable. Less than $1 per pill. No overpriced prescription, no hassle, just real results, American-made at the best prices in town. Plus, with early hours starting at 5:30 in the morning, we fit your schedule.
Take control of your health today. Call Revitalize Clinic at 239-277-5770. Visit revitalizelounge.com or text Dr. Dollar directly at 239-980-2302. That's 239-980-2302. Get results. Get confidence. Revitalize Clinic, because every man deserves to perform at his best without breaking the bank. Text Dr. Dollar now at 239-980-2302.
This is Miller and Moulton.